Every person is born carrying within them a seed of goodness. That seed lies dormant within the quietest part of the soul, like a tiny sprout, waiting to be nurtured and cultivated. If one knows how to preserve and nourish it with kindness and compassion, that seed will grow into a lush, shade-giving tree, protecting and sustaining their very life. But there are also those who, due to ignorance, lose that seed of goodness and gradually become indifferent and cold to life. Still others allow greed, anger, and delusion to cloud that seed, causing their hearts to harden and fill with wounds. Yet, deep within the nature of every human being, no one truly doesn't need goodness, and no one cannot be touched by kindness. Even a heart once as hard as steel or as cold as ice will, at some moment, be moved by a touch of genuine warmth. Goodness is not a treasure to be deposited in a bank hoping for profit. A truly good-hearted person does not do good deeds to receive benefits or reciprocation. The deepest level of goodness is performing good deeds without expecting results. Like a tree that provides shade, it doesn't need anyone to know its roots and trunk. In this life of many choices and turns, we sometimes face countless opportunities. And because everyone wants to be perfect, we crave perfect choices. We want the best, and also wish to become the best. But the more we strive for perfection, the more easily our minds become troubled and anxious. The more expectations we hold, the harder it is to sleep well, and the easier it is to lose peace. There are long nights when you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why life is piled high with so much pressure. Busy work, family turmoil, changing hearts. The worry about the future gently presses on your chest like a heavy stone. When the world's clamorous sounds subside, you finally hear the quiet sob of your own being. Others see you as strong, but only you know how exhausted you truly are. Amidst the daily hustle, we often try too hard. We endure pain without daring to speak, bear loneliness while trying to maintain a calm facade. Then, when night falls, all suppressed emotions suddenly rush out, making your heart ache and sleep difficult. Now, the Zen Buddhist Dharma channel invites you to close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and slowly breathe out. In this moment, you don't need to strain, don't need to appear strong, don't need to think about anything. Just be here peacefully and listen quietly. Life outside may be full of storms, but in this very moment, no one can disturb you anymore. The Buddha's teachings you are about to hear are like tiny raindrops falling onto your soul, washing away layers of worries and afflictions that cling to your heart. At some point, we no longer care about winning or losing. We choose silence as a way to protect our peace. We overcome pressure through understanding life. Happiness does not come from struggle, but from a soul that knows how to let go gently. Human life is inherently filled with suffering. Every household, every situation, everyone must experience falling and getting back up on their own. No one can bear our pain for us, nor can anyone sleep peacefully for us. The peace in sleep is like a clear stream of water. Only when the mind settles can the water become clear. Someone once asked the Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma channel, why is it that the things we want to forget remain unforgettable? Why do worries cling tightly even when we try to chase them away? It is because the mind has not truly let go. And the more we cling, the more sleepless we become. All pain, all sorrow, is like a hot cup of water. The longer you hold it, the more your hand burns. The tighter you grasp it, the more you hurt yourself. Just let it go, and all the pain will disappear. Sleep is the same. It only comes to those who know how to gently release their worries. Tonight, you are not just listening to a lecture. You are embarking on a journey to release anxiety. Let go of worries. Return to your breath, and touch the peaceful sleep that the Buddha taught. Let your heart open like a door, gently opening to light in the dark night. Let each word of the teaching become a guiding light for you to pass through the darkness of the concerns that silently weigh you down every day. There are long nights when you lie still in the darkness, with only the sound of your own breathing in your ears. Yet your mind is not at peace. The more you want to sleep, the more you toss and turn. The more you want to rest, the more exhausted you become. Life viewed from the outside may seem very normal, but on the inside, it is a whole battle that no one understands. Sometimes during the day, you laugh and talk with everyone. But when night falls, every worry silently creeps back. Life is inherently short, yet we lose so much time just struggling with our own minds. The Buddha taught that everything in life is constantly changing, and nothing is absolute. What we try to hold on to today may slip from our grasp tomorrow. What we fear today may become a trivial matter. When we look back after a few months, everything is impermanent, and the human mind is also impermanent. Sadness will change, and joy will also transform. When we understand this, we begin to see that the greatest pain of human beings is not what happens externally, but what we ourselves burden our shoulders with. Some people often say that life is too difficult, which is why they suffer. But in reality, life is not suffering. It's just that our minds carry too much, so they feel heavy. People who sleep easily are not necessarily less worried than us, but because they know when to put their worries down. People who find peace easily are not because they have fewer troubles, but because they know how to choose what is worth bothering about. People are tired, not because the burden is too great, but because we stubbornly cling to everything, not knowing when to release. It's so that the mind has room to breathe. The Buddha taught that all suffering originates from attachment. The more the mind clings to something, the more easily we suffer because of it. When we cling to the past, we carry sadness. When we cling to worries about the future, we carry heavy fear. When we cling to others' expectations, we feel small. When we cling to results, we live in disappointment. Therefore, the true suffering of human beings lies not in circumstances, but in our own clinging. Many people think they suffer because life spins them around, but in reality, they suffer because they refuse to let go of things that have long passed their expiration date. Some cling to the past, like holding on to burning coals. It burns their hands until they bleed, yet they refuse to let go, thinking that if they release it, they won't know what to rely on. Some hold tightly to every thought, every sadness, every hurtful word someone said. They store every detail in their memory as if it were a treasure. but the more they hold on, the more heartache they feel. The human mind is like a glass of clear water. When you leave it still, the water settles and becomes clear. But when you continuously stir it, the water becomes cloudy, without a clear bottom. The mind is the same. If you don't know when to stop, when to rest, when to let go of thoughts, your mind will become chaotic, and sleep will elude you. People who have difficulty sleeping are mostly because their minds are not at peace. The mind is not at peace because we constantly think. We think about what has passed, what has yet to come, what does not belong to us. The more we think, the more everything seems tangled like a ball of yarn. The more we think, the more we feel small and unable to control anything. The Buddha once taught that when the mind is chaotic, one sees unrest everywhere. The mind is like a lamp in the wind. Just a slight gust will cause it to sway immediately. A person with a chaotic mind carries instability wherever they go. Even small matters seem heavy. Even light tasks become sorrowful. This is not because life is too harsh, but because the mind is not broad enough to contain these fluctuations. Some say that the older you get, the harder it is to sleep. Why is that? Because as we grow, we accumulate more responsibilities. We have to shoulder family burdens, strive in our work, maintain relationships, worry about our children's future, our parents' health, and daily expenses. And then we forget that humans cannot live by burdens alone. We also need space to breathe and to live. The human psyche is fragile. When thoughts accumulate too much and cannot be released, they weigh down the body and mind, causing insomnia, depression, fatigue, and illness. The human body is not harmed as much by heavy physical labor as it is by the silent worries in the mind. Some people appear very healthy on the outside, but inside they are like an old door. And just a small thing is enough to make it collapse. The reason is not because they are weak, but because their minds bear too much pressure that they cannot release. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha spoke of suffering as the first truth of life. But what he wanted to teach was not for us to be despondent that life is only suffering, but for us to recognize the origin of suffering and know how to stop it. We suffer because of clinging, because of greed, because we want everything to go our way. When things don't go as desired, the mind immediately becomes angry, anxious, and dissatisfied. When we let go of cravings, let go of expectations, let go of attachments, suffering diminishes. To understand better, we can look at the story of a mother who frequently suffered from insomnia. She was an ordinary woman with many responsibilities on her shoulders. During the day, she worked until evening, but at night, she couldn't sleep. She would toss and turn until 1 or 2 in the morning, just thinking about things that might not even happen tomorrow. She worried about her children's tuition, her aging parents in the countryside, potential mistakes at work, and an uncertain future. Year after year, she lived in such anxiety that her body became utterly exhausted. One day, as she was sitting in the kitchen washing dishes, her daughter noticed her red-rimmed eyes and asked, "Mom, does all this worrying make things better?" The mother felt as if she had suddenly awakened. She realized that for all those years, all the worries she carried only weighed down her heart and changed nothing. The future did not become better because of her worrying. Nor did the past change because she thought about it. Only she grew increasingly exhausted. This story is not just about that mother. It is also the story of countless people in this life. We constantly worry about all sorts of things, but in the end, we save no one but ourselves from harm. We try to hold on to things that no longer belong to us. We embrace unnecessary sorrows. We cling tightly to old things. We wonder why we suffer. But the Buddha taught that the root of all suffering lies in attachment. When we know how to let go, we will feel lighter. When we know how to put down our burdens, we will realize that we can still move forward. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that those who always cling to expectations cannot find peace. It is like a person carrying a torch against the wind. The tighter they hold it, the more the fire burns their body. Life is the same. When we cling to negative thoughts, we burn ourselves. When we hold on to sadness, we cause ourselves suffering. When we cling to what has passed, we burden our minds. Human suffering mostly comes not from having too little, but from wanting more than we can bear. We want a perfect life, a smooth career, others to understand us, and everything to go our way. But life is like a river. It cannot flow according to anyone's will. The more we resist the current, the more tired we become. When we learn to go with the flow, we will feel much lighter. The lesson is that life does not demand us to be strong all the time. Sometimes we also need to be vulnerable to realize how tired we are. We need to stop to see that we have carried too much. We need to let go so that our minds can rest. When you learn to put down some of the burden, you will find a little more light in your mind. When you learn to let go of things that are not important, you will see yourself more clearly. A person who knows how to let go is not indifferent, but understands that not everything needs to be held onto. Healing the mind is not a one-day affair. It is a long journey. But every journey begins with a small step. And the first step is to realize that we have suffered from holding on to too much. From there, we will know how to reduce meaningless things. We learn to sleep earlier. We learn to spend a few minutes just breathing. We learn to see sadness as a cloud passing across the sky of consciousness, coming and going without resistance. We learn to let the mind settle like the surface of a clear lake. When the mind settles, sleep also becomes easier. When the mind is at peace, the body naturally recovers. If you are listening to these words on a long, sleepless night, understand that you are not alone. Everyone in life has moments of overthinking. But from now on, you can gently put your worries down a little. No need to strain. No need to try hard. Just let your mind rest. Each breath you take in brings life back to your body. Each breath you let out releases a part of your burden. Then, gradually, you will find peace returning. And then you will realize that suffering is not because life is too heavy, but because the mind carries too much. Just lighten your burden a little, and life will become a little lighter. When the mind has space, peace will find its way back. There are nights longer than a person's entire year of living, simply because the heart refuses to let go of things that are too old or things that have not yet happened. In life, everyone has been in a quiet room, lights out, everyone asleep, yet their mind is still full of noise. The sound of worry, the sound of fear, the sound of unanswered questions. Sometimes we lie still, but the mind does not stand still. Sometimes we close our eyes, but our minds are still open, running back to yesterday and rushing to tomorrow before returning to today. This life is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing is eternal. Yet many people hold on to everything as if it will accompany them throughout their journey. One who embraces suffering carries a heavier burden than suffering itself. Every branch and leaf eventually falls. Knowing this is the law of heaven and earth, yet humans rarely let go of their afflictions from their minds. The more we cling, the more tired we become. The tighter we hold, the less we can sleep. Letting go in Buddhism is not about abandonment. Letting go is seeing that the nature of this life is change. Nothing stays still forever, and nothing remains the same from morning to night. Everything shifts like a flowing river, never standing still. Choosing to let go is choosing to live in harmony with that flow. The Buddha taught that the cause of suffering comes from attachment and wanting everything to go our way. When the mind refuses to relax, the body becomes tired. When the mind refuses to be still, sleep will elude it. Many people wonder why they can't sleep. Even if their body is quite healthy, the room is quiet, and work isn't overly stressful. When we look deep inside, we realize that the root cause of insomnia is the sadness, fear, and worries that silently bind us at some point in our minds. People often find it difficult to let go of something because we forget that most of the things that make us toss and turn are not in the present. Some things belong to yesterday, some are still in tomorrow, and some may never even happen. But we still imagine them and cling to them as if they were real. Insomnia, very often, is not because the bed is uncomfortable, but because our minds do not allow themselves to rest. We fear losing someone. We fear others' judgment. We fear tomorrow's work will fail. We fear past mistakes will come back to haunt us. We fear the future will not be as we wish. A person with too many fears is like standing in a cramped room filled with stones. Every step is heavy because the mind burdens itself with extra weight. And how can sleep come to a person who is still busy clinging to both the past and the future? Buddhist teachings call a mind that cannot let go an attached mind. Attached to right and wrong, attached to others' opinions, attached to old stories, attached to things yet to come. Attachment makes the inner self heavy, like carrying dozens of invisible bags of stones. The more attached one is, the less free. The tighter one clings, the more sleepless one becomes. Every time we think we must control everything, the mind tightens like a string pulled taut, and over time, it becomes weary. Every time we think that just a little more worrying will make everything smooth, we are deceiving ourselves. Worrying does not make the future better. Worrying only makes the present dark and causes sleep to crumble away each night. In modern life, people are more prone to the state of not being able to let go because too many things pull their minds in different directions. Constant news, demanding work, complex relationships. Social media comparisons make everyone fear they're falling behind. People's hearts are tired from racing, from clinging, from wanting to prove themselves. And when night falls, these things become knocking sounds in the mind, keeping us awake. The Buddha taught that to sleep well, one must lighten the mind. When the mind is light, the breath will be light. When the breath is light, the body can rest. When thoughts settle, sleep will come. There's a story about an old man traveling a long distance, carrying a very heavy bag on his shoulder. People saw him and wondered why he wouldn't stop to rest and relieve himself of the burden. Someone asked what he was carrying in his bag that was so heavy. The old man replied, "There's nothing valuable in the bag, just a few stones and miscellaneous items I picked up along the way." The other person asked in surprise, "Why don't you throw them away so you can walk more lightly?" The old man just smiled and said he was used to carrying it and felt it would be a waste to put it down, even though it didn't help him at all. The bag didn't make the old man richer, didn't make him happier, and didn't make his journey shorter. It only exhausted him with every step. The scary thing was not the real bag, but the mind that refused to let go, which made him carry it so far. If we look closely in life, there are many such bags. Bags of resentment, bags of blame, bags of unfinished plans, bags of hurtful words, someone once said, bags of things that haven't happened yet, but we fear they will. Every time we close our eyes, trying to sleep, we bring that bag into bed. Sleep never comes to those who still carry such invisible burdens. Life always has its ups and downs. The human mind always has its bright and dark moments. No one lives in this world without experiencing suffering. But what exhausts us does not come from circumstances, but from not giving ourselves the opportunity to relax. The Buddha once taught that knowing how to let go is wisdom, and knowing what to keep that is truly necessary is also wisdom. A wise person is not someone who never encounters difficulties, but someone who knows how to put down what makes their mind uneasy. Some people keep a remark someone made years ago in their heart all day long, and then let that remark become pain at night. Some cling to an old failure, and then imagine their life will always be dark. Some keep an unspoken apology in their heart and blame themselves to the point of insomnia. Everyone has their own bag of stones, but not everyone realizes that they have every right to put it down at any time. In the scriptures, the Buddha said that this life is like mushrooms that grow and then disappear, like clouds that gather and then disperse, like a wind that comes and then leaves. Nothing is big enough to trade for one's own health. No pain is worth sacrificing inner peace. No memory is worth staying awake for. All are just small waves in the vast ocean. When we learn to view life with the perspective of impermanence, we will feel lighter. When we know that everything is temporary, we will learn to cherish the present. When the mind no longer tries to cling, sleep will come like twilight. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go is the courage to look within ourselves. Everyone has to learn to put down the things that once made them toss and turn. Everyone has to look back and see what bags they are carrying in their minds without knowing it. And when we realize it, the thing to do is not to blame ourselves, but to gently say, "I am tired enough. Let my mind rest a little. Let the pain fall away. Let the things that don't belong to me return to where they need to be. Let high expectations remain in their small corner. Let old mistakes become lessons instead of wounds." When we practice letting go of a small thing during the day, We are opening the door for sleep to enter each night. Just take a deep breath and tell yourself that today is over. We have tried. We have done our best. The rest, let karma guide. We cannot decide everything, but we can decide whether to be at peace or not. When we choose to let go, we choose peace, and peace is always the key to sleep. A person who has suffered from long-term insomnia, if they understand the laws of the mind, will gradually realize that no sleeping pill can cure the instability within the heart. Only when we look at the cause that makes us toss and turn, and dare to put it down, do we truly begin our own healing journey. Buddhist teachings are the path of understanding. When we understand what we are holding, what we fear, what we desire, what makes us sad, we can untie each knot. A person who understands themselves can sleep well. A person who does not understand themselves will remain deluded, thinking that the world is making things difficult for them, while they themselves are making their own sleep difficult. From the story of the old man and the heavy bag of stones, we can see a profound lesson. Life is not inherently heavy, but the human mind makes it heavier. Pain is not as frightening as our refusal to release it. The bag is not as frightening as the clinging mind of the one who carries it. This story is like a mirror for us to realize that whenever we can't sleep, we should ask ourselves, what is keeping us awake? Is it in the past, present, or future? Is it truly worth sacrificing our health and peace for? Or is it just a worthless bag that we are reluctant to discard? The message of Buddhist teachings is always light, like a breath. When the mind knows how to let go, the body will sleep. When the mind knows how to relax, sleep will return. There is no need to force yourself to immediately forget painful things. Just accept that you are learning to be lighter, little by little. There is no need to try to be a perfect person. Just understand that you are practicing to live better than yesterday. There is no need to control the future. Just abide in the present. And before sleeping, let your mind return to your breath. The breath is like a stream. The stream flows and then passes. Worries are the same. Sadness is the same. They come and they go. Only the mind decides whether to hold on to them or let them pass. When we learn to put down burdens, we will sleep like a child, bringing no sadness to bed. When we learn to relax our minds, sleep will be the universe's reward for a soul that knows how to live lightly. And when we know that letting go is not defeat, but a way of loving ourselves, we will no longer be afraid to put down the things that exhaust us. Because sometimes what we need most is not to hold on more, but to step back, not to cling, but to open, not to try to grasp, but to let the mind be free. When the mind is free, sleep will naturally come. People often think that their suffering lies in their mind, but few realize that the body also plays a very large part in the pain we carry every day. Body and mind are like two sides of the same stream. Where one is cloudy, the other cannot be clear. Life is inherently impermanent, and this very impermanence constantly forces our bodies to adapt to countless external changes. When the weather changes, the body gets tired. When work is heavy, the body tenses. When the mind worries, the body contracts. Every day, countless things touch us. But humans rarely stop to see how much tension their body is carrying. Amidst busy lives, we forget that the body also knows sadness, fatigue, and pain. When the body doesn't get rest, sleep gradually moves away. When the body is too tense, the mind can hardly be at peace. Buddhist teachings view the body and mind as two companions. If the mind is restless, the body is agitated. If the body is tense, the mind can hardly settle. Someone who wants to sleep well, but keeps their shoulders tense all day, their brow furrowed even when there's nothing special, their chest constricted as if preparing to face something frightening, cannot enter the necessary state of relaxation for peaceful sleep. Many people don't understand why they suffer from insomnia year after year, yet they don't realize that every day their body is always in a state of readiness to fight everything, even when there's no danger ahead. According to the Buddha's teachings, people often live without truly knowing they are living. We work, but don't pay attention to our breath. We speak, but don't know if our voice is trembling. We walk, but don't feel our feet touching the ground. We eat and drink, but don't know if our body needs rest. We focus too much on external matters and don't slow down enough to see what signals our body is sending. Precisely because we don't know, we carry tension from morning to night, so that when night comes, the body is still in a state of alert. And when the body is alert, the mind will be chaotic. When the mind is chaotic, sleep becomes a luxury. Physical tension is a form of suffering in the Four Noble Truths that the Buddha mentioned. Suffering is not just sadness or sorrow, not just failure or loss. Suffering is sometimes just tightened shoulders after an exhausting day. Suffering is sometimes just living in a body that we ourselves don't listen to. Suffering is sometimes carrying pressure without knowing when to release it. Each part of the body has its own memory. Shoulders remember burdens. The forehead remembers worries. The back remembers the times we pushed ourselves beyond limits. The chest remembers fears we haven't even named. When these memories accumulate, the body becomes a sealed box filled with tension that we are completely unaware of. There was a woman who worked in an office for over 20 years. Her life was quite stable, work wasn't too stressful, and her family was peaceful. Yet she always felt shoulder pain, headaches, and often tossed and turned every night. She thought it was a normal illness and took medication for a long time, but it didn't improve. One day, she met an old friend. The friend looked at her and said that her face always looked like she was fighting the whole world. She was startled and didn't understand why. When she returned home, she looked closely in the mirror. She saw her forehead wrinkled, even though she wasn't sad, her shoulders hunched as if carrying a burden, and her eyes always tense, as if guarding against something. And at that very moment, she realized that for 20 years, she had always lived in a state of bracing herself without even knowing it. After that day, she began to observe herself more. She realized that the habit of tensing her shoulders and furrowing her brow had become deeply ingrained since she was young, when she had to worry about work, family, and things that hadn't happened yet. She had carried tension for so many years that it became an unconscious reflex. Every day when working, she still maintained that habit. When eating, when talking, even when sitting alone, she still tensed her body as if preparing to enter a battle. Her body had never rested, and that was what made sleep difficult. Her story clearly shows us one thing. The body can retain tension longer than the mind. The mind may forget, but the body does not. When the body is tense, the breath also becomes restricted. When the breath is restricted, the mind will be more fearful. And when the mind is full of fear, sleep will move away. That woman didn't know that she had lived in a state of prolonged tension for 2 decades simply because she didn't listen to her body. But fortunately, just by realizing it, she began to learn to relax little by little, relaxing her shoulders, relaxing her forehead, relaxing her hands, relaxing her chest. Her breath became lighter, and her mind gradually settled. Just a few months later, her insomnia disappeared without medication. The Buddha's teachings remind us that one cannot force the mind to be at peace if the body is not relaxed. In many sutras, the Buddha spoke of the breath as a means to bring the mind back to the present moment. The breath is the bridge between the body and mind. When the breath is too fast, the mind will panic. When the breath is too shallow, the body will be tired. But when we know how to listen to the breath, know how to let the body be natural, the breath will become a stream that cools the soul. In the Mindfulness of Breathing Sutra, the Buddha taught that just by clearly knowing one is breathing in and breathing out, the body and mind will be at peace. When the breath is gentle, the body will relax. When the body relaxes, the mind will settle like a lake after the wind stops. People often think that what keeps them from sleeping are big matters, but sometimes it's just a little tension in the neck, a little constriction in the chest, a little furrow between the eyebrows, a little clenching of the hands when working. These things are so small that we get used to them and don't realize it. But it is precisely these small things that are the root cause, keeping the nervous system in an alert state, preventing sleep from coming. The mind wants to be at peace, but the body doesn't allow it. The mind wants to sleep, but the body is still fighting. People with long-term insomnia often confuse thoughts and bodily sensations. They think that insomnia is due to an overthinking mind. But in reality, most of that overthinking stems from the body being too tense and having no space to breathe. The lesson from that woman's story shows us that relaxing is not giving up, but an art of living. When we know how to relax the body, we are giving the mind ample space to return to. When we know how to relax our shoulders, we regain our lightness. When we release our furrowed brows, we open a clear space in our mind. When we allow our chest to be unconstricted, we give ourselves the opportunity to take a deep breath. The deeper the breath, the wider the mind. The wider the mind, the easier sleep comes. The Buddha once compared humans to a lamp in the wind. When the wind is strong, the lamp sways. When the body is tense, the mind also sways in the same way. To keep the lamp still, we don't run to find a place without wind, but learn to keep the mind steady amidst the wind. But for the mind to be steady, the body must be at peace. Only then can the body support the mind. A body that is too tense is like a tree with roots tightly bound. Those roots cannot keep themselves steady when a storm comes. And sleep is when the roots need to settle to nourish both body and mind. Practitioners of the Buddha's teachings often begin by observing the body, just by noticing if the shoulders are tense, if the forehead is furrowed, if the jaw is clenched, if the chest is constricted. Whenever you notice something, don't blame yourself. Just relax. Relax little by little, as lightly as placing down a dry leaf. Don't do anything. Just breathe and listen. The body listens to the breath. The mind listens to the body. That listening is mindfulness. Mindfulness is seeing everything as it is, without forcing, without controlling, without resisting. Mindfulness helps the body not to strain anymore. And when the body doesn't strain, the mind naturally knows how to be at peace. Someone asked, is relaxing the body alone enough to cure insomnia? The answer is that relaxing the body is the first step to opening the door to sleep. If the mind is a stream, the body is the container. If the container vibrates too much, the water cannot stay still. If the body is the soil, the mind is the seed. If the soil is too dry and hard, the seed cannot sprout. A peaceful mind depends greatly on a relaxed body. A relaxed body begins with each deep breath, each gentle movement, each moment we allow ourselves not to be defensive against life. When we learn to relax in every small activity of daily life, nighttime sleep will become natural. The healing message here is that humans don't need to try too hard to sleep. Sleep is not something we can force. Sleep comes when the body and mind meet at a point of balance. All we can do is create the conditions for that balance to blossom. Sit still for a moment before sleeping. Let your hands rest gently on your lap. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breath enter and exit naturally. Let your mind know that it no longer has to brace itself against anything. Look at your body as you would look at a dear friend, a friend who has accompanied you through many days and months, yet you have never once asked if it was tired. When we treat the body with kindness, sleep will be the gift in return. The woman in the story changed only one small thing: observing and relaxing. But that small thing healed 20 years of tension. Everyone listening to this lecture can also start that way. No need for complex theories. No need to force oneself to meditate for a long time. No need to try to do anything perfectly. Just gently realize how your body is and relax. When the mind knows how to relax the body, all worries will float away like dust against the wind. When the body is soothed, the mind is also soothed. And when both body and mind let go, sleep will come to you like a gentle stream returning to the vast ocean. When night falls is also when people are most likely to confront themselves. During the day, busy, engaging with life. In the evening, engaging with their inner feelings. Some people, even though their bodies are tired, their minds refuse to rest. The lights dim, but thoughts become excessively bright, reflecting on old sorrows, regrets, and unintentional words left behind by others. Life is inherently transient, like a flowing river, always changing direction. Nothing stays the same. But people often try to cling to things that are no longer suitable, because when we don't understand the law of impermanence, we mistakenly think everything will stand still for us to grasp onto. This very misconception makes us heavy and causes insomnia. The Buddha once taught that human suffering does not lie in circumstances, but in the attitude of clinging tightly to those circumstances. Life is like a boat floating on a river. The water can be calm or turbulent. We cannot command the water to stand still, but we can learn to release some of the heavy objects that make the boat unstable. Sometimes we think we must keep everything, control everything, hold on to every relationship, every job, every memory. But the more we hold on, the more tired we become. A person who wants to walk fast, but keeps accumulating. Things will surely slow down. The mind is the same. The fuller the mind, the heavier it is. The heavier the mind, the harder it is to sleep. Someone asked the Zen Buddhist Dharma channel why their mind races uncontrollably every night. Is it because work isn't finished, family matters are unresolved, or worries about the future are unsettled? But deep down, it's because we haven't learned to put down the heavy bag we carry every day. We don't know how to let go of the things that have made us tired. We don't dare to abandon the things that have hurt us. This reluctance makes the heart heavier than even tangible pressures. So, when it comes to letting go, many people often think that letting go is defeat, weakness, or loss. But in Buddhist teachings, letting go has never been a failure. It is a victory over oneself. Letting go is when we no longer let external circumstances control our minds. Letting go is when we know what to keep and what to release. Letting go is when we are awake enough to see that suffering does not come from what we lack, but from what we hold on to too much. Letting go is a path that goes against the human habit of clinging. But once one has walked that path, peace comes like a cool breeze blowing through the mind. The ancients had a saying, "A lamp only shines brighter when we remove old oil. The mind only lightens when we take out the heavy burdens stored within." Some people are troubled their entire lives simply because they refuse to put down the things that have caused them pain. Like a person embracing a bundle of thorns, the tighter they hold it, the more it hurts. Yet they refuse to let go because they think it's important. Life is sometimes paradoxical like that. What makes us tired is right in our hands, but we are reluctant to release it. There is a story of a Zen master and a hot cup of water that everyone understands the lesson of letting go after hearing it. One day, a famous wealthy merchant whose mind was always restless came to see a Zen master. The merchant said that he had everything: money, houses, status, even the respect of the world. But strangely, the more he had, the more anxious he felt, the more sleepless he became, and the more he feared losing what he possessed. This fear prevented him from having a single night of peaceful sleep. He came to the Zen master, hoping to learn how to calm his mind. The Zen master did not answer immediately, but gently invited him into the living room. On the table were 2 cups. The Zen master picked up a kettle of hot water and began to pour it into the merchant's cup. The water filled to the brim and then overflowed. The hot water fell on the merchant's hand, startling him and causing him pain, so much so that he had to drop the cup he was holding. The merchant jumped up and said, "The water is too hot. Why did you pour so much, Zen master?" The Zen master looked at him and said, "If the water is hot, you must let go. If you don't want to get burned, yet in life there are countless hot things that are hurting us, keeping us awake, but we try to hold them tightly in our hands. We blame life for being difficult, but in reality, we are making things difficult for ourselves." The Zen master's words were like a gentle touch on the merchant's mind. Only when it hurt too much did you let go of the cup. Life is the same. We only let go when the pain becomes unbearable. Therefore, the Zen master said that a wise person does not wait to get burned before letting go, but knows how to let go before the pain becomes too much to bear. The story is simple, but it illuminates a truth about the human mind. We often hesitate when we have to let go of something. We keep thinking that holding on will be better, but the more we cling, the more we push ourselves into suffering. There's another story that also helps us understand the folly of holding on to things that cause us pain. A man was cleaning out a warehouse. While cleaning, he accidentally grabbed a handful of nails. His hand hurt, but he tried to hold on to them to carry them all out at once, quickly. The sharp nails pricked his palm, making him wince. But he still tried to hold on, thinking that letting go of them one by one would be time-consuming and inconvenient. However, after only a few steps, he couldn't bear it anymore and was forced to drop them. When he sat down on the floor, opening his injured hand, he finally understood that his pain was not from the nails themselves, but from trying to hold on to what was not worth holding. Letting go brings lightness. Holding on brings pain. After hearing these two stories, many people suddenly realized that some things in their hearts are also like a handful of nails or a hot cup of water. They bring no benefit, yet we hold on to them tightly. It could be a relationship that is no longer sincere, a job that has exhausted us, a pride that we dare not lay down, an old sadness that we consider a part of our life story. A hurtful word someone once said that we keep replaying. An inappropriate expectation that we cling to, only to blame ourselves later. Each thing has its own form, but they are alike in that they all make us tired, cause us insomnia, and make our hearts heavy, as if carrying an invisible bag of stones. According to Buddhist teachings, what causes human suffering is not the events themselves, but our attachment to those events. Attachment is like an invisible rope that binds us, preventing us from relaxing. The longer it binds, the harder it is to untie. And when the mind is bound, even if the body lies on a soft bed, it's hard to find peaceful sleep. Conversely, when the mind is light, even lying on a simple mat feels peaceful. Serenity, or insomnia, lies not in material things, but in how the mind perceives life. In the Samyutta Nikaya, there is a teaching. The mind is like water. If the water is muddy, one cannot see anything. If the water is clear, one can see everything. If the mind is chaotic, one sees unrest everywhere. If the mind is at peace, everything becomes simple. People who suffer from insomnia are often not because their body is tired, but because their mind is accumulating too much. Stress accumulates day after day, leaving the mind with no space to rest. It's like a room full of clutter, where it's hard to find space for anything else. When the mind is overflowing with thoughts, deep sleep is difficult to achieve. That is why the Buddha taught to let go, to lighten the heart. Because only when it is light can the mind rest. Letting go in Buddhist teachings is not escaping or avoiding responsibility. Letting go is a conscious act. It is realizing that what you are holding on to now is no longer essential. It is knowing that holding on to it will hurt you. It is the courage to face the truth that some things must leave for you to move forward. It is admitting that you are only human, and that you have the right to be tired, the right to stop, the right to put things down. When understood this way, we no longer view letting go as a loss, but as a way of loving ourselves. We don't wait until the pain is too great to let go, like the merchant who had to be burned to drop the cup of water. We practice letting go early, when the heart begins to feel tired. We practice letting go when we see that the mind is no longer wide enough to carry more burdens. Not everyone can do this immediately, but the more we practice, the more open our hearts become. Some people say they cannot let go because they still care. But true caring has never caused suffering. Caring that causes suffering is misdirected caring. Just as a tree needs sunlight, but too much intense sun burns the tree. Emotions are the same. True caring nourishes. Misguided caring withers. Therefore, letting go is sometimes not the end of caring, but caring enough to know when to walk away. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha taught that all suffering has a cause, and that cause is clinging. If we can abandon clinging, suffering ceases by itself. A person who clearly understands this will no longer cling to the things that are hurting them. Many people, after hearing these two stories, are often moved because they see themselves in them. Some see themselves as the merchant, always fearing loss and clinging tightly to things that make them uneasy. Some see themselves as the man clutching nails, knowing it hurts, but still trying to hold on. Some also see themselves as the hot cup of water, trying to contain things beyond their capacity to bear. But whoever we are, the lesson is the same. Letting go is not giving up on life, but giving up on mistaken grasping. Letting go is to rediscover the inherent peace within the mind. From these stories, we can draw a simple yet profound conclusion. Before we want to sleep well, we must let our minds rest first. Before we want our minds to rest, we must put down the things that burden us when the mind is light. The body relaxes. When the body relaxes, sleep naturally comes like a kind friend entering the room. A person who tosses and turns sleeplessly every night is simply because their mind refuses to let go. If the mind is still worrying, still regretting, still resentful, still doubtful, still hurting, then sleep will only stand outside looking in and cannot enter. To apply this to daily life, we can start with a very small step. Every evening, before going to bed, sit still for a few minutes and ask yourself, which hot cup of water am I holding today? Is there anything that is hurting me that I still refuse to put down? Is there any worry that is making my heart heavier than necessary? Is there any concern that is no longer relevant, but I'm still holding on to? Is it out of habit or fear of what others might think of me? Just being able to see this will lighten the mind a little. Then, take a very slow breath in and a very long breath out. Each exhalation is a release. Letting go is not about changing circumstances immediately, but about changing how we face those circumstances. Letting go is not about cutting off relationships, but about cutting off dependence on things that hurt us. Letting go is not about becoming indifferent, but about knowing how to properly care for our mind. Most importantly, letting go is not a one-time act. Letting go is a process. A little each day, a little with each breath, each moment of mindfulness, will be a step towards peace. You will see that people who live lightly are not because they have fewer things in life, but because they don't let life's matters occupy too much space in their hearts. They know their mind is precious. They know their sleep is worth cherishing. They know that holding on to something that hurts them is how they inflict suffering upon themselves. And so, they learn to put it down when needed. When we understand the spirit of these two stories, we will see that letting go is not an abstract philosophy, but a very practical lesson. A hot cup of water, if we try to hold it, will hurt us. A handful of nails, if we try to embrace them, will injure us. A bundle of worries, if we try to cling to them, will cause us insomnia. To heal, one must open their hand. To be light, one must let go. To sleep well, one must give the mind space to breathe. And as you listen to these words tonight, let your heart soften like the surface of water after the wind has calmed. Let your mind open a space wide enough for sleep to enter. Let heavy things fall away like the last autumn leaves leaving their branch. Human life is inherently impermanent. No one can hold on to anything forever. The only thing that remains is inner peace. Let go before it hurts you beyond endurance. Let go before your heart is exhausted. Let go for your mind to rest. Let go for sleep to return. Let go for your body to be healthy and your heart light. And let go to live a more carefree life. This life is inherently impermanent, like water flowing through rock crevices. What belongs to today will also dissipate into tomorrow. Every person walking through life carries invisible baggage accumulated over the years, from joyful and sorrowful experiences, and from things they don't even realize have clung to their minds like the dust of life. When night falls, everyone wants to lie down to rest, hoping for a full night's sleep. Yet not everyone can do this seemingly very natural thing. Some lie down, but their minds still refuse to be at peace. Thoughts still race along with the currents of life. Sadness still flows silently in their chests. Some close their eyes, but their hearts open to 100 worries. Sleep is hard to find because the mind is still heavy, still clinging, still holding on to too many things that no longer belong to it. That is why, in Buddhism, the word buông, let go, is not about escaping, but about returning, a reminder for people to gently lower the burden on their shoulders, to give their minds a space to breathe, to rest, to find peace. If we look deep into our minds, we will see that no suffering exists in isolation. A tense body leads to a tired mind. A tired mind leads to restless sleep. Sometimes we think life makes us tired, but in reality, it is our clinging to old things that makes life heavy. Just as a fuller cup is harder to pour more water into, a mind piled high with thoughts is harder to enter deep sleep. The Buddha once taught that the root of suffering lies in attachment, meaning clinging to what we want to keep, clinging to what we believe must belong to us, and even clinging to things that hurt us, but we still refuse to let go because we are used to them. Many people ask why they have difficulty sleeping, why they toss and turn every night. The answer is sometimes surprisingly simple. It is because their minds are overloaded, holding on to too many decaying things, clinging too tightly to things that should have been put down long ago. People can overcome long, arduous mountain paths. They can work all day without feeling tired. But just one prolonged thought is enough to cause them insomnia all night. Sadness is like dust against the wind. The more you resist, the cloudier it becomes. Worry is like a lamp in the wind. The more you try to hold it steady, the harder it is to find peace. People live amidst life and learn to adapt to many changes. But strangely, very few people know how to learn to let go. They think that holding on will be safer, that clinging will be more certain. But this very act gradually hardens their hearts, and sleep, consequently, moves further and further away. In Buddhism, there are 5 types of letting go that anyone who practices them will find life lighten in every aspect, and sleep will come a little closer. These 5 types of letting go are not for us to lose anything, but for us to regain what we have lost for a long time: the peace of mind. Let go of pressure. Let go of the past. Let go of negative thoughts. Let go of resentment. And let go of narrow-mindedness in the mind. When these 5 things are put down, the mind will be like a calm lake at midnight, reflecting moonlight without a ripple. Falling asleep as soon as you lie down is not luck. It is the result of a soul that has become more open. Human suffering often begins with the pressure they put on themselves. We think we have to be better than others, succeed by worldly standards, and become the role model society expects. So every day, we pile invisible burdens on our shoulders. Our minds are stretched thin. Our hearts have no room to breathe. And when night falls, hundreds of undone things rise up like an upstream river. The Buddha once said that suffering comes from craving and attachment. When we want too many things, our minds are no longer light. When we cling to the image of ourselves in the eyes of others, even sleeping becomes a challenge. Letting go of pressure is not abandoning life, but understanding that we don't need to strain ourselves to become what others expect. Just live authentically, do your best, and keep a kind heart, and everything will naturally flow according to its karma. The past is the second thing. People often cling too tightly to the point of sleeplessness. Old stories still follow us into our dreams. Old mistakes, no matter how small, are enough to burden our minds. Many people suffer because they keep standing at a closed door. They keep looking back, regretting, hurting, but the past is like water that has flowed under the bridge. There's no way to hold it back. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are impermanent, meaning nothing exists permanently, even what hurts us. If we learn to look at the past with gratitude instead of remorse, we will see it only as a lesson to help us become stronger. When the mind knows how to let go of the past, we will close our eyes more gently at night. Negative thoughts, on the other hand, cling to the mind very quickly and leave very slowly. A harsh word, an unkind glance, an unexpected incident at work can cause our minds to churn all day. These thoughts are like tiny thorns, not big, but enough to make us uncomfortable inside. At night, we lie down and still think about them. Worry amplifies worry. By the time night falls, the mind has no room left for peace. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a garden, and thoughts are seeds. Plant good seeds, and the mind blossoms. plant bad seeds, and the mind grows weeds. Letting go of negative thoughts is not forcing ourselves to be happy, but letting bad seeds return to their rightful place, not letting them control our lives anymore. When the mind has space for goodness, sleep naturally becomes deeper. Resentment is the heaviest of the 5 things that burden people. When we are angry at someone, we are actually tying our own minds up. We think we are retaliating against them, but the person most affected is ourselves. Resentment is like a burning coal. The longer you hold it, the more it burns your hand. The Buddha taught that hatred never ceases by hatred. It ceases only by forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting everything, but allowing ourselves to move forward without carrying that heaviness anymore. A person who does not know how to forgive will have their mind boiling all night. A person who knows how to release resentment will have their mind soften, and sleep will come more naturally. Narrow-mindedness makes the heart constricted when we calculate every little gain and loss, when we always want to keep the upper hand for ourselves. When we look at life with suspicious eyes, our minds shrink. A small mind cannot contain peace. Generous people usually sleep more easily than those who are calculating, because they don't bother with too many trivial things. The Buddha taught that the wider the mind, the deeper the blessings. People with blessings often sleep peacefully. People lacking blessings often have restless minds. Letting go of narrow-mindedness is opening the door for our hearts to receive more light, and for darkness to recede. Someone once told a story about a long-haul truck driver. He carried so much cargo, so much that the truck struggled. The engine overheated constantly, and every time he drove a short distance, the truck would stop because it was overloaded. He thought the truck was broken, so he took it to his usual mechanic. The mechanic just smiled after examining it and said, "The truck isn't broken. It's just carrying too much for its capacity." The driver was stunned and realized that simple truth. All this time, he thought he needed to carry more to finish the job faster, not knowing that this very thing was exhausting his truck. Humans are the same. We are not broken. It's just that we are piling too many things on ourselves. No one forces us to hold on to these things. It's just that we are used to holding on and don't realize it's making us tired. How can one sleep when the mind is still heavy? When the mind is light, one lies down and immediately falls asleep. Sleep comes not only from a relaxed body, but also from a peaceful mind. The Buddha taught that when the body is at peace, the mind is at peace. When the mind is at peace, one sleeps peacefully. To sleep well, one must first lighten their mind. There's no need to let go of everything in one day. Just putting down a little each night will make life lighter. Let go of pressure so you don't suffocate yourself. Let go of the past to live fully in the present. Let go of negative thoughts to keep your mind clear. Let go of resentment for your heart to be wider. Let go of narrow-mindedness to live more harmoniously with yourself. When we practice letting go, it's not life that changes, but our eyes looking at life that change. It's not that sleep is difficult, but that our minds are difficult to settle. When these 5 things are put down, sleep will come to us like an old friend returning, gentle, warm, and peaceful. And when you get a full night's sleep, you will realize that all this time, what you needed was not to try harder, but to be gentler with yourself. If you are listening to these words on a sleepless night, please try placing your hand on your chest and taking a deep breath. Let the breath flow into your mind like cool water. Whisper to yourself that today you have done enough. You have tried enough, and you deserve to rest. Then gently imagine that all the burdens on your shoulders are slowly being placed on the ground. You are losing nothing. You are simply returning it to where it belongs. When the mind knows how to let go, that is when sleep finds you in the most peaceful state. There are nights when people cannot close their eyes simply because their minds keep circling a very familiar question. Why is life not as I wish it to be? A small deviation makes us unsettled. A word not to our liking makes us sad. A failure makes us toss and turn. And these unreleased worries are repeated over and over in our heads until we lie down with our hearts still racing like a runaway horse, breathing in fatigue, breathing out anxiety. When the mind is not at peace, sleep becomes a luxury. When we demand life to be perfectly as we wish, peace has no place to reside in our hearts. The Buddha taught that the nature of life is impermanence. What exists today may change tomorrow. What we hold in our hands may slip away, just like a leaf that is fresh in the morning, but wilts by afternoon. Impermanence does not allow anyone to keep what they like forever, nor does it allow us to avoid what we don't want. Suffering arises from precisely this non-acceptance of impermanence. When we want everything to be perfect, we will be fearful when we see change. When we want to never make mistakes, we will be confused every time we stumble. When we demand that others always act according to our wishes, we will be resentful every time they inadvertently go against our hearts. Impermanence is the truth of all phenomena, and whether we suffer or not depends on whether we are willing to understand and accept it. People who have difficulty sleeping are often those who hold too many standards of perfection in their hearts. A slight failure makes them torment themselves. A small mistake makes them doubt themselves. A criticism can keep them awake all night. They want to be better, greater, more precise, and they refuse to accept any imperfections. Their minds are always taut like a guitar string, wanting everything to go exactly according to their plans. They want everyone to understand them absolutely, and they want life to unfold exactly according to the path they have laid out. But life is like a river, with calm stretches and rough patches. If we insist that the water remain still according to our will, we ourselves will be swept away by the great waves of expectation. The human psyche, when pursuing perfection, is always the same. We fear being judged, so we force ourselves into a mold. We fear being left behind, so we try to do everything perfectly. We fear admitting wrong, so we try to maintain a strong exterior, even when we are cracking inside. And the more we try, the more tired we become. The more tired we are, the more stressed we become. The more stressed we are, the less we can sleep. Sleep is a door that only opens when the mind softens. A heart that constantly tries to be tough can never be light enough to sink into peaceful sleep. There's a beautiful story, often recounted in psychology and philosophy classes, about perfection. A professor took his students to a wide, green field. He told them to walk straight ahead and pick the most beautiful leaf, but they could only go forward and not turn back. The young students, full of enthusiasm, walked with the hope of finding the most beautiful leaf. The first student saw a beautiful leaf, but thought there must be an even better one ahead, so he passed it by. The second student also saw a beautiful leaf, but feared choosing too hastily, so he hesitated and also kept going. One by one, each student walked through the entire field without picking a single leaf, because none seemed perfect enough. In the end, they realized that it was precisely their high expectations and fear of choosing wrong that made them lose all the beautiful leaves that were already waiting for them. The professor smiled and said, "Those who endlessly search for perfection ultimately return empty-handed." In life, it's the same. Many people, obsessed with finding something perfectly complete, overlook the simple but wonderful things that are right before their eyes. We look at an event, but think the best is in the future, so we don't appreciate the present. We look at a person, but think happiness will come with a more perfect person, so we don't cherish the one in front of us. And then, when we look back, we realize how many valuable things we have missed. There was a young woman who once experienced such a story. She met a kind man who was caring and always listened, but she thought he was too gentle, not strong enough, like the ideal man she hoped for, so she left him. Then she met a second man who had a good job and stable finances, but he was too busy and had little time for her. She again thought this was not what she wanted. Then she met a third man who was wise and knowledgeable, but his way of life was too rigid, and she felt she couldn't harmonize perfectly. She continued to move on, believing that somewhere in the world there was still another, more perfect person waiting. Many years passed, as emotional hurts exhausted her, and long nights forced her to face loneliness. She finally realized that the perfection she demanded from others had never existed. The only thing that existed was sincerity and completeness in every simple thing. She realized that the kind man from years ago had given her peace. The diligent man had given her a sense of security. The principled man had taught her how to live responsibly. Everyone has good qualities worth cherishing, but her expectations had blinded her, preventing her from seeing them. Her pursuit of perfection had caused her to lose very good things that life had brought her. This story is not just for those seeking love, but for all who pursue a flawless life, wanting a brilliant career, wanting a constantly peaceful family, wanting absolutely obedient children, wanting oneself to never make mistakes. When an expectation is shattered, we feel resentful. When something goes against our will, we feel anxious. Then these emotions accumulate into fear, sadness, anger, and helplessness, causing sleep to elude us. The Buddha taught that humans suffer due to clinging. We cling to the perfect image we have built. We cling to what should and should not be. We cling to right and wrong. We cling to the self we want to protect. Clinging to expectations makes the mind heavy, as if carrying stones in the heart. How can one sleep when the mind is heavy? When the mind is light, sleep will naturally come like a gentle stream flowing into a valley. In the scriptures, there is a saying, "One who knows contentment is always happy." Contentment here does not mean lack or passively accepting life, but knowing when to stop expectations at the right time. We know how to appreciate what we have. We know that life does not need to be perfect to be beautiful. It only needs sincerity and peace in every small moment. When we know contentment, we will see that everything in life is lovely in its own way. The biggest lesson from the story of the grass leaf and the story of the girl seeking the perfect man is not about what we should choose, but about how we should view life with a more generous perspective. When we are generous with ourselves, we torment ourselves less when we make mistakes. When we are generous with others, we blame them less when they don't meet our expectations. When we are generous with life, we pick less at small things to cause ourselves suffering. Sleepless nights can be a reminder that we are demanding too much. We have put burdens on our shoulders that exceed our capacity. We have forgotten that no human is born perfect. A peaceful soul does not come from perfection, but from the ability to accept imperfections gently. The mind is like a room. If we keep filling it with rules, expectations, fears, and disappointments, the room will become so cramped that there is no space left for sleep to reside. But if we know how to open the door, how to clear out unnecessary things, how to let go of what burdens our hearts, then that room will become spacious, and sleep will come like a kind friend, placing a hand on our shoulder and saying, "It's time to rest." A gentle breath can also soothe the heart. When we breathe in, we feel our hearts are alive. When we breathe out, we feel ourselves gently releasing everything we don't need to hold on to. We don't need perfection to sleep peacefully. All we need is to return to the truth that this life is a natural flow. And we just need to let ourselves go with that flow, with a light heart. If you can, close your eyes and reflect that what you have today is already a precious gift. Loved ones by your side are a gift. The health you still retain is a gift. Small things you achieve during the day are also a gift. We don't need to gather the whole world to feel happy. We just need to realize that these small things are enough to make our minds settle. The easiest sleepers are not those with perfect lives, but those with simple hearts. They don't need the world to conform to them because they understand that everything is unfolding according to its karma. They don't need to chase after others' standards because they know that every step they take can be peaceful if taken with mindfulness. They don't blame themselves when they make mistakes because they understand that mistakes are also lessons. They don't demand others to be like them because they know everyone has their own circumstances. This very softness in the mind creates peaceful sleep. Tonight, if you are having trouble sleeping, try gently letting go of the standards of perfection you are clinging to. Remember the story of the field and the leaf. Truly wonderful things are often present around us, but we don't see them because our eyes are always searching for what does not exist. Remember the story of the girl from years ago. When we focus too much on what we don't have, we won't cherish what we do have. Let your heart rest. Let your mind be still. Let yourself return to the fullness of each breath. Perfection does not exist, but peace does. And peace is right in this moment. Just let yourself let go. Just let life be as it is. When the mind accepts, the body will be light. When the body is light, sleep will come like an old friend, returning after a long time. Slowly feel the gentleness seeping into each breath. Then you will see that sleep has not gone anywhere. It is just waiting for you to stop, smile, and step into the embrace of peace. This life is truly strange. The longer one lives, the more one realizes that many seemingly grand things are actually very simple. And the things that cause us sleeplessness and sorrow sometimes originate from the very complexity we ourselves create in our minds, like a naturally calm body of water. But just a small pebble dropped can create ripples that spread endlessly. The human mind is the same. Just a tiny worry can make an entire long night feel heavy. In this ever-changing world, we are increasingly caught in layers of accumulated thoughts, like invisible threads binding the mind, making it difficult for the mind to relax and sink into peaceful sleep. The Buddha taught that the nature of all phenomena is impermanence. Everything has its highs and lows, light and dark, simplicity and complexity. Nothing remains still forever. No emotion lasts forever. No problem persists forever if our mind knows how to settle. Impermanence is a reminder that we cannot control everything. And the more we try to force life into our own mold, the more we suffer. When we understand impermanence, we no longer demand that life always go our way. When we understand impermanence, we no longer turn small troubles into big mountains. When we understand impermanence, we know that a problem, no matter how difficult, will eventually pass like clouds drifting by, or like a rainstorm that comes and goes. And understanding this is the first step for the mind to become light. People who have difficulty sleeping are often not because life is too hard, but because their minds have too many layers of thoughts. One thought hasn't even finished before another intrudes. A small matter hasn't been clarified before we add our own imagination to it, making it more convoluted. And some people, as soon as they lie down, begin to recall things that happened during the day. They remember someone's slightly insensitive comment. They remember a colleague's look that made them uncomfortable. They remember their children's misbehavior. They remember unfinished tasks at work. All these things are essentially just small pebbles. But when we bring them into bed, embracing them with a tired mind, these pebbles naturally become a huge rock pressing on our chest, keeping us awake all night. In Buddhist teachings, it is said that the mind is the root of all afflictions. When the mind is clear, every task seems simple. When the mind is confused, even small matters become complicated. A person with a peaceful mind only needs a gentle breath to clarify everything. A person with a chaotic mind, even sitting amidst peace, feels confused because the mind creates it. The mind is where all sensations arise, and also where all worries cease. When the mind is agitated, sleep flees. When the mind is calm, sleep returns. That is why people who know how to simplify things are often those who can sleep very quickly. The truth is, humans have a habit of making things difficult for themselves. We hear a story. Instead of listening with a normal mind, we interpret it through our own worries. We see someone change their attitude. Instead of asking for clarification, we make our own assumptions and complicate everything. We face a small problem, but instead of solving it step by step, we exaggerate it to the point of making our minds uneasy. Consequently, sleep is affected and health also declines There's an everyday story that many people laugh at after hearing it, then quietly reflect on themselves. A father worked all day, stressed by many tasks, making his mind spin. In the evening, he came home to find his son studying and asking for help with a math problem. It was just a simple problem for an elementary school student. But because his mind was still haunted by the day's work, when he looked at it, the problem seemed complex. He thought it must contain a trick, require many steps, or have some deep meaning. How could it be so easy? So he picked up a pen, drew all sorts of diagrams, tried all formulas, calculated over and over, but still didn't find it logical. With each passing minute, he became more irritable, wondering why such a small problem was confusing him. The child looked at his father, but didn't dare say anything. Finally, the child gently showed his father that the answer only required one single calculation. The father looked again, sighed, and then let out a bitter laugh. He said that because his mind was muddled, he saw everything as muddled. The problem was not in the math problem, but in his mind. A simple problem became complicated simply because his mind was too tired and filled with pressure. The story, though simple, clearly reflects the psychological operation of countless people. When the mind is confused, every small matter turns into a chaotic mess. When the mind is heavy, a light task becomes a heavy burden. When the mind is tired, even if someone helps, one still feels stressed. What makes us suffer is not external events, but how we perceive them. The Buddha taught that all suffering originates from wrong perceptions. Wrong perceptions give rise to afflictions. Afflictions lead to unwholesome actions. Unwholesome actions create bad karma, and that karma, in turn, causes us to continue to suffer. It all starts from a small spark when we complicate life. Therefore, to have a peaceful life and a sound sleep, the first thing is to simplify everything. Simple in perspective, simple in thought, simple in one's reactions to life. Not everything needs to be analyzed too deeply. Not every matter needs to be put through multiple layers of interpretation. Not everyone's words need to be kept in our hearts, only to be dissected every night. A light day begins with a simple mind. When the mind is simple, life becomes clear, like pristine spring water. When the mind is complex, everything becomes murky, like stirred water. When the mind is calm, every problem seems to have a solution. When the mind is full of chaotic thoughts, every situation seems like a dead end. In the scriptures, there is a saying, "Water is naturally clear, only stirred by the wind to become murky. The mind is naturally bright, only clouded by delusive thoughts." This means that the nature of the mind is not confused, but because we constantly allow delusive thoughts to interfere, the mind no longer sees things as they truly are. Simplicity is the way to help the mind return to its original light state. Many people have difficulty sleeping, not because they have too many worries, but because they have a habit of thinking too much about one worry. They keep replaying that image in their heads. From a small dot, they draw a large circle and then trap themselves within it. If they knew when to stop and look at the problem with simplicity, everything would dissipate quickly, like morning dew. When the fog lifts, the sun can shine. The mind is the same. When the knots are untangled, sleep can come. A lesson that anyone can draw from the story of the father and his son's math problem is to let simple things be simple again. Return everything to its true size instead of exaggerating it. Let the mind not have to carry extra, unnecessary burdens. Life is difficult enough. We should not make it harder by tying unnecessary knots in our own thoughts. Simplicity does not mean shallowness. Simplicity is wisdom. A simple person is not an incompetent person, but one who clearly knows what is important and what is not. They do not waste their minds on unworthy things. They do not let someone's unintentional words occupy all the space in their mind. They do not let a small event linger for too long. They do not add unreal interpretations to their heads. From this, their minds are light, and sleep comes very naturally. The Buddha once taught that when the mind is at peace, all things are at peace. A peaceful mind is not because life has few storms, but because we know how to stand still amidst the storms. Standing still is not resignation, but knowing how to see everything with an understanding gaze. When we know how to keep our hearts light, whatever happens will not disturb us too much. If the mind is at peace, the breath will be smooth. If the breath is smooth, sleep will come. If one day you feel too tired from thinking too much, sit down, take a deep breath, and remind yourself that things can be simpler than you think. Look again at what is truly important. See if your mind is carrying unnecessary things. See if you are turning small things into big problems. When you realize that, you will feel lighter. A small lightness can open up an entire sky of peace in your mind. If tonight you have difficulty sleeping, try doing something very simple. Place your hand on your chest, feel the beat of your heart, and tell yourself that everything will be okay. All problems can be untangled if the mind is calm. No problem is worth sacrificing your sleep for. Health is the foundation of all success. Peace is the most precious thing. Let life be less complicated. Let the mind be less agitated. When the mind is still, sleep will come like water flowing into the earth, soft and silent. Night will no longer be a fear, but a time for the mind and body to heal. Slow down. Think just enough. Let go just enough. And keep a clear space in your heart for sleep to find its way back. When you learn to simplify everything during the day, you will realize that peace has never been far away. It is right beside you in every breath. Just open your heart, let go of complications, and know how to let everything return to its inherent simplicity. And then sleep will come very gently, like a gift that life bestows upon hearts that know tranquility amidst life's many changes. In everyone's life, there are moments when we sit silently in the dark of night and wonder why we have such difficulty sleeping. Sometimes sleep eludes us, not because the body is tired, but because the heart is not at peace, like a lake with many ripples. Even if the surface tries to flatten, there are still subtle movements underneath. Night is when our mind is most honest, when there are no car sounds, no people's voices, no work to sweep us away. We suddenly confront ourselves. The things we did, the things we didn't do, the things we accidentally did, all like light but sharp fragments of memory, rushing back and painting a long story in our heads. Some can't sleep due to worries about making a living. Some toss and turn due to troubled relationships. Some close their eyes, and regrets immediately surge, making their heart feel lightly squeezed. And some think they've forgotten a few small things during the day. But when night falls, their heart silently asks if they have lived right. Life is impermanent. Everything we try to hold on to will eventually leave us. Everything we cling to in our hearts will eventually turn into wind. Only one thing remains. That is how we treat others and ourselves. A kind heart makes life bright. A peaceful mind makes sleep serene. This simple truth sometimes only becomes clear at a certain point in life, when we are mature enough to look back and see that all the suffering we encounter, all the unease we endure, originate from the mind. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are mind-made. The mind is the root of all good and all unease. One who carries resentment in their heart will not find peace even on a soft bed. One who is envious, even with a closed door, will hear storms in their head. One who carries goodness, however, often sleeps soundly because their mind owes nothing, and their heart is not entangled in petty calculations. Goodness is not something distant or profound, but the way we choose to live each day. Born as human beings, everyone desires peace. But when we know how to plant seeds of goodness, peace will find us faster than we think. Conversely, when we hold on to things that trouble us, things that go against our conscience, things we know are wrong, yet stubbornly cling to, sleep can never be complete. Because the mind knows everything. Conscience is the silent gatekeeper. It needs no reminder, no control. Every time we do something contrary to it, it speaks out in a very soft but very real way. That is the heaviness in the heart, the tossing and turning, the moment we close our eyes, the feeling of unease even when the body is utterly exhausted. The human psyche is complex, but also very simple if viewed through the Buddha's teachings. When we do good, we feel light. When we do wrong, we feel heavy. Heaviness here is not physical, but mental. People who are often irritable, angry, comparing, or envious often have difficulty sleeping because their minds are not pure. When we are angry at someone, lying down to rest at night, we see their face appear before our eyes. When we say something inappropriate, lying alone at night, we hear that sound reverberating in our head. When we accidentally do something that makes someone, we toss and turn and sigh. All are manifestations of mental karma, of small intentions during the day. Conversely, a person who does good deeds, even small ones, goes to bed with a light heart, as if their heart has just been cleansed. A kind heart sleeps very easily, not because they are wealthy or without worries, but because they do not let their minds be soiled by greed, anger, and delusion. They know that in life, nothing is more precious than tranquility. They may not have a lot of money, but they know how to preserve a treasure more valuable than money, a pure soul. And when the mind is pure, the night is peaceful. There is an everyday story, yet profound enough to make us ponder the link between a kind heart and sleep. It is the story of an old woman who sold vegetables at the end of an alley. The old woman lived simply, selling self-grown bundles of vegetables to earn a little money for daily living. One afternoon, as she was packing up her stall, preparing to carry her basket home, she found a 20,000 VND note lying on the ground. A small amount for many. But for her, it was a significant portion of a day's earnings. She picked it up, looked around, but saw no one. Passers-by were already few. Perhaps someone had dropped it unknowingly. She hesitated for a moment. If she kept this money, her family's dinner would be more substantial. But that thought only made her feel uneasy. She took the money home, but the entire evening she was restless. She sat by the charcoal stove, listening to the wood crackle, her heart as unsettled as it had been all day. She told her daughter that something was bothering her, as if a pebble had fallen into her heart. Finally, unable to bear the feeling, she decided to look for the owner the next morning. She went from house to house near where she sold vegetables, asking everyone. But everyone shook their heads. At the last house, a factory worker, hearing the story, was startled and said she didn't remember dropping money, only that her purse felt lighter now. Upon receiving the 20,000 VND, she thanked the old woman profusely, while the old woman smiled gently, as if a great burden had been lifted. That night, she slept better than usual. She recounted that it wasn't because returning the 20,000 and VND earned her praise. It wasn't because she feared others would know, but because she didn't want her heart to be heavy. She wanted her heart to be clean, light, and at peace at night, so that when she closed her eyes, she could have a full night's sleep. The story seems small, but contains a big lesson. The old woman's goodness did not lie in the value of the money, but in the choice between heaviness and lightness in her mind. Others might not have seen it, and the person who dropped it might not have remembered immediately. But her mind saw it clearly, and what kept her from sleeping was not the lack of money, but the feeling of keeping something that was not hers. That very feeling made her toss and turn, making her heart feel as if it had thorns. Only when she returned did she sleep soundly. We are the same. Many times, what causes our insomnia is not huge things like failure or loss. Sometimes, it's just a wrong word spoken during the day, an incorrect thought, an action that makes us uneasy. The purer the mind, the deeper the goodness, the more easily these things disturb our hearts. But also, thanks to them, we know we must correct ourselves. The Buddha taught that doing good is like washing away dust with water, while doing wrong is like adding another layer of dust to the mind. A little dust is fine, but if it accumulates every day, at some point, we will no longer see the light in our hearts. And sleep is where this is most clearly revealed. When we are good, the mind will be bright. When the mind is bright, the night will be peaceful. In the Dhammapada, there is a saying, "A good mind brings joy, like a shadow following the form." This means that when we cultivate goodness, blessings will follow us naturally, and peace will accompany us without needing to be sought. People who do good are not always wealthy, but they almost always sleep well, because they owe no one anything in their hearts, owe no one an unspoken apology, owe no one kindness that they intentionally forgot, owe no hidden truth, owe no hurtful action that they refuse to correct. They go to sleep with clean hearts. On the other hand, people who do bad deeds always have darkness in their minds. That darkness follows them into sleep and prevents them from finding peace. Many times, we think we have forgotten, but the mind does not forget. We think a small, bad deed is harmless, but karma records it very clearly. Good or evil, both have consequences, and the first consequence is peace or restlessness in our very own sleep. The lesson from the story of the old woman picking up vegetables helps us realize that goodness is not something grand. It is simply the decision to live true to our hearts. To live so that when we lie down at night, we feel no remorse. Some people think that only large-scale charity work counts as goodness. But sometimes, simply living without harming anyone, not taking what is not ours, not saying words that hurt others, not harboring deceit in our hearts, is enough to help us find peace. Every small choice during the day determines the quality of sleep that night. When the mind is light, the breath is calm. When the breath is calm, the eyes easily close. When the eyes close, sleep comes naturally, like a gift. Living kindly is the simplest yet most effective key to peaceful sleep. So, how can we apply this to life? First, practice living truthfully with yourself. If something is wrong, correct it immediately during the day. If something makes you uneasy, find a way to resolve it. If you accidentally make someone sad, you should apologize before night falls. If you accidentally take something that does not belong to you, return it as soon as possible. If you still hold anger towards someone in your heart, breathe deeply and let go a little. Anger only burdens your heart and does not make the other person suffer more. Goodness is not just a way of living with others, but a way of living with your own mind. Second, cultivate the habit of doing good deeds every day, even very small ones, such as helping an elderly person carry groceries, picking up trash on the street, or speaking kind words. Goodness is like small lamps in the heart. Lighting one lamp illuminates one corner. Lighting many lamps illuminates the entire mind. When there is enough light in the heart, darkness has no place to reside, and the darkness of unease, anxiety, and sleeplessness will gradually dissipate. Finally, remember that no one in life is perfect, but everyone can choose to live kindly. Goodness does not require wealth. Goodness does not require high education to understand. Goodness only requires a heart that can distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. When we live kindly, we are returning peace to ourselves. When the mind owes nothing, sleep will come like water, gently flowing through rock crevices, without force, without craving, just quietly and deeply. May you from today sleep more easily, sleep deeper, by knowing how to gently lay your heart down each night and let goodness guide your mind to peace. There are stories that seem very ordinary, but contain immense healing power. The story of coffee and cups. The story of a man who changed jobs just for pride. All these show us where the essence of suffering and the essence of peace lie. When we look closely, we will see that most of the suffering in life does not come from circumstances, but from how we hold the cup in our hand. One day, a group of former students of a university professor returned to visit him. They had all grown up. Some were business owners, some held high positions, and some were facing problems at work and in their families. As they sat down with their teacher, they began to talk about their current pressures, worries, and exhaustion. After listening, the professor just smiled and went into the kitchen to brew a large pot of coffee. Then he brought out a tray full of various cups. Some were very beautiful and luxurious. Some were plain and simple. Some had slightly cracked edges. Some were made of shiny glass. He told them to choose a cup for themselves and pour the coffee. When everyone had settled down, the professor looked at each person and said, "Do you notice this? All of you chose the most beautiful, shiny, and luxurious cups. The simpler cups were all left behind. No one said it, but everyone wanted to take the best for themselves. Everyone wanted to express something when choosing a cup. But do you realize that what you actually need to drink is coffee, not the cup? The cup is just a container, a secondary thing. Yet everyone pays more attention to it than to the true essence." Then he continued, "Your lives are exactly the same. Your work, fame, status, appearance, money are like the cups, while happiness, stability, and inner peace are like the coffee. Yet most people only keep choosing the cup and forget the most important thing, which is the flavor of the coffee inside. They change jobs, change houses, change cars, change spouses, change everything just to find a more beautiful cup. But in the end, they lose their inner peace. I want you to understand that if you choose the wrong focus, life will always be restless." That story is like a mirror for us to reflect on ourselves. We often chase after external glamour and think that is what makes us happy. We fear others will see us as inferior. We fear being judged, feared to be looked down upon, feared that we are not as good as others. And because of fear, we cling tightly to beautiful cups, even though sometimes they are what make us tired. It is similar to the man in the story that the Lin Buddhist Dharma channel is about to tell you below. There was a man living in a big city with his wife and 2 children. He worked as a factory worker in a manufacturing plant. His job wasn't lucrative, but enough to support his family. His life would have been peaceful if one day he hadn't heard his friend say that a man who works as a factory worker, his whole life has no future, is a failure, just living day by day. That remark was like a needle pricking his self-esteem. From that day on, he became restless and ashamed of his job. Then he decided to quit to find a more prestigious job, a more beautiful cup, an environment where he could hold his head high among everyone. He applied to a company to work as a sales representative. He had never done this job before, so he had to learn from scratch, get used to monthly sales targets, face customer rejections, and force himself to appear professional. Every day, he came home utterly exhausted. His salary was less than before. Time spent with his family decreased. He became stressed and easily irritable. Sometimes, his wife would ask if he was okay. He would just snap that he had to endure a little hardship for a brighter future. But the more he tried, the more pressured he felt, the more he felt lost. One day, he sat alone on the porch, thinking about his old job. He remembered the early evening shifts, the laughter of his colleagues, the feeling of not being overly burdened by work. At that time, though not wealthy, he felt lighter. But he still didn't dare to go back because of pride, because he feared others would say he failed, that he wasn't capable enough for a higher position. One day, his daughter asked, "Dad, why don't you smile anymore lately?" That question was like a bell ringing in his consciousness, and he fell silent. For the first time, he clearly saw how much he had sacrificed. He realized that he was trying to cling to a beautiful cup just to prove to others that he was not inferior to anyone. But while that cup was too luxurious, too heavy, too demanding, the coffee inside was getting colder and colder. He no longer felt happy, no longer felt light, no longer felt the taste of life. The next day, he decided to resign and return to his old factory, asking for his previous job back. At first, he felt a little embarrassed, but his old colleagues welcomed him with sincere smiles. No one mocked him, no one judged him. He understood that the things he had feared all this time were actually just illusions created by his own mind. His wife cried tears of joy when she saw him return to normal, cheerful, less stressed, and spending time with his family. He started smiling again, started sleeping well again, and began to experience life more fully. It was then that he realized that a job does not determine a person's worth, but a peaceful mind determines the worth of a life. When we look deep into that story, we will see the reflection of many people in this life. We change jobs not because we need to, but because of pride. We force ourselves to pursue standards that are not our own, but those imposed by others. We try to show off, try to prove ourselves, try to adorn ourselves with beautiful clothes, but inside, we are full of unhealed wounds. We forget that happiness does not lie in what others see, but in what only we can feel. The Buddha taught that we suffer because we cling. Cling to the self, cling to appearances, cling to fame and gain, cling to the need to be better than others. The more we cling, the more restless our minds become. When the mind is restless, even living in a beautiful house, driving a beautiful car, or doing a prestigious job, we still feel tired. Conversely, when the mind is light, even just sitting in a small room, drinking a simple cup of coffee, we still feel life's warmth. In Buddhist teachings, there is a saying, "Let go of what does not belong to you." A beautiful cup that is too heavy is not for us. A luxurious cup that makes our hands tremble is not for us. We don't need to force ourselves to become someone that society expects. We just need to return to our true selves. Life is not inherently complex. It is only complex because we want it to be. Someone asked how to keep the mind at peace amidst changes. The Buddha taught that the mind is only at peace when we see everything for its true nature, when we know that external things are just containers, and what is important is inner peace. We will no longer be drawn into the whirlpool of competition and comparison. When we know that we were not born to chase after others' expectations, we will begin to live our own lives. When we know that we don't need a beautiful cup to enjoy the flavor of coffee, we will begin to taste the simple sweetness of life. The miracle is that once the mind is at peace, we will have the wisdom to clearly see the path we need to take. When we are no longer held back by the voice of pride, we will know what suits us and what only causes us suffering. When we can let go of the ego, we will become lighter in our own lives. And as we become lighter, everything around us also becomes lighter. Our family becomes more peaceful. Our work flows more smoothly. Our soul becomes clearer. One who knows how to live is one who chooses the coffee, not the cup. One who knows how to practice is one who knows how to return inward instead of rushing outward to search. One who knows peace is one who knows that peace lies not in a beautiful cup, but in every sip of coffee taken with a full heart. Therefore, if you are feeling tired right now, ask yourself if you are drinking coffee or just focusing on the cup. If you find yourself trying to prove something to others, stop for a moment and ask yourself if it is truly necessary. If you find yourself losing your smile every day, see if you are clinging too tightly to a cup that isn't meant for you. And if the answer is yes, be brave and put that cup down. Choosing a cup that suits you does not make you small. Knowing what you need does not make you inferior. Living true to your inner nature is a kind of wisdom that not everyone possesses. When you learn to appreciate the flavor of life more than its external appearance, you will find the peace that you once thought required so much effort to obtain. The flavor of life is inherently very gentle. It's just that we have forgotten how to taste it. Slow down a little. Pour yourself a cup of coffee. Sit quietly in a tranquil space and let your mind return to your breath. You will see that life has never abandoned you. It's just that you have been running too fast to see the things that are truly important. Peace is not far away. It lies right beside you in every breath. Just open your heart, let go of complications, and know how to let everything return to its inherent simplicity. And then sleep will come very gently, like a gift that life reserves for hearts that know tranquility amidst life's many changes. In everyone's life, there are moments when we sit silently in the dark of night and wonder why we have such difficulty sleeping. Sometimes sleep eludes us, not because the body is tired, but because the heart is not at peace, like a lake with many ripples. Even if the surface tries to flatten, there are still subtle movements underneath. Night is when our mind is most honest, when there are no car sounds, no people's voices, no work to sweep us away. We suddenly confront ourselves. The things we did, the things we didn't do, the things we accidentally did, all like light but sharp fragments of memory, rushing back and painting a long story in our heads. Some can't sleep due to worries about making a living. Some toss and turn due to troubled relationships. Some close their eyes, and regrets immediately surge, making their heart feel lightly squeezed. And some think they've forgotten a few small things during the day. But when night falls, their heart silently asks if they have lived right. Life is impermanent. Everything we try to hold on to will eventually leave us. Everything we cling to in our hearts will eventually turn into wind. Only one thing remains. That is how we treat others and ourselves. A kind heart makes life bright. A peaceful mind makes sleep serene. This simple truth sometimes only becomes clear at a certain point in life when we are mature enough to look back and see that all the suffering we encounter, all the unease we endure, originate from the mind. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are mind-made. The mind is the root of all good and all unease. One who carries resentment in their heart will not find peace even on a soft bed. One who is envious, even with a closed door, will hear storms in their head. One who carries goodness, however, often sleeps soundly because their mind owes nothing, and their heart is not entangled in petty calculations. Goodness is not something distant or profound, but the way we choose to live each day. Born as human beings, everyone desires peace. But when we know how to plant seeds of goodness, peace will find us faster than we think. Conversely, when we hold on to things that trouble us, things that go against our conscience, things we know are wrong yet stubbornly cling to, sleep can never be complete, because the mind knows everything. Conscience is the silent gatekeeper. It needs no reminder, no control. Every time we do something contrary to it, it speaks out in a very soft but very real way. That is the heaviness in the heart, the tossing and turning, the moment we close our eyes, the feeling of unease, even when the body is utterly exhausted. The human psyche is complex, but also very simple, if viewed through the Buddha's teachings. When we do good, we feel light. When we do wrong, we feel heavy. Heaviness here is not physical, but mental. People who are often irritable, angry, comparing, or envious often have difficulty sleeping because their minds are not pure. When we are angry at someone, lying down to rest at night, we see their face appear before our eyes. When we say something inappropriate, lying alone at night, we hear that sound reverberating in our head. When we accidentally do something that makes someone sad, we toss and turn and sigh. All are manifestations of mental karma, of small intentions during the day. Conversely, a person who does good deeds, even small ones, goes to bed with a light heart, as if their heart has just been cleansed. A kind heart sleeps very easily, not because they are wealthy or without worries, but because they do not let their minds be soiled by greed, anger, and delusion. They know that in life, nothing is more precious than tranquility. They may not have a lot of money, but they know how to preserve a treasure more valuable than money: a pure soul. And when the mind is pure, the night is peaceful. There is an everyday story, yet profound enough to make us ponder the link between a kind heart and sleep. It is the story of an old woman who sold vegetables at the end of an alley. The old woman lived simply, selling self-grown bundles of vegetables to earn a little money for daily living. One afternoon, as she was packing up her stall, preparing to carry her basket home, she found a 20,000 VND note lying on the ground. A small amount for many, but for her, it was a significant portion of a day's earnings. She picked it up, looked around, but saw no one. Passers-by were already few. Perhaps someone had dropped it unknowingly. She hesitated for a moment. If she kept this money, her family's dinner would be more substantial. But that thought only made her feel uneasy. She took the money home, but the entire evening she was restless. She sat by the charcoal stove, listening to the wood crackle, her heart as unsettled as it had been all day. She told her daughter that something was bothering her, as if a pebble had fallen into her heart. Finally, unable to bear the feeling, she decided to look for the owner the next morning. She went from house to house near where she sold vegetables, asking everyone, but everyone shook their heads. At the last house, a factory worker, hearing the story, was startled and said she didn't remember dropping money, only that her purse felt lighter now. Upon receiving the 20,000 VND, She thanked the old woman profusely, while the old woman smiled gently, as if a great burden had been lifted. That night, she slept better than usual. She recounted that it wasn't because returning the 20,000 and VND earned her praise. It wasn't because she feared others would know, but because she didn't want her heart to be heavy. She wanted her heart to be clean, light, and at peace at night, so that when she closed her eyes, she could have a full night's sleep. The story seems small, but contains a big lesson. The old woman's goodness did not lie in the value of the money, but in the choice between heaviness and lightness in her mind. Others might not have seen it, and the person who dropped it might not have remembered immediately. But her mind saw it clearly. And what kept her from sleeping was not the lack of money, but the feeling of keeping something that was not hers. That very feeling made her toss and turn, making her heart feel as if it had thorns. Only when she returned did she sleep soundly. We are the same. Many times, what causes our insomnia is not huge things like failure or loss. Sometimes, it's just a wrong word spoken during the day, an incorrect thought, an action that makes us uneasy. The purer the mind, the deeper the goodness, the more easily these things disturb our hearts. But also, thanks to them, we know we must correct ourselves. The Buddha taught that doing good is like washing away dust with water, while doing wrong is like adding another layer of dust to the mind. A little dust is fine, but if it accumulates every day, at some point, we will no longer see the light in our hearts. And sleep is where this is most clearly revealed. When we are good, the mind will be bright. When the mind is bright, the night will be peaceful. In the Dhammapada, there is a saying, "A good mind brings joy, like a shadow following the form." This means that when we cultivate goodness, blessings will follow us naturally, and peace will accompany us without needing to be sought. People who do good are not always wealthy, but they almost always sleep well, because they owe no one anything in their hearts, owe no one an unspoken apology, owe no one kindness that they intentionally forgot, owe no hidden truth, owe no hurtful action that they refuse to correct. They go to sleep with clean hearts. On the other hand, people who do bad deeds always have darkness in their minds. That darkness follows them into sleep and prevents them from finding peace. Many times we think we have forgotten, but the mind does not forget. We think a small, bad deed is harmless, but karma records it very clearly. Good or evil, both have consequences, and the first consequence is peace or restlessness in our very own sleep. The lesson from the story of the old woman picking up vegetables helps us realize that goodness is not something grand. It is simply the decision to live true to our hearts. To live so that, when we lie down at night, we feel no remorse. Some people think that only large-scale charity work counts as goodness. But sometimes, simply living without harming anyone, not taking what is not ours, not saying words that hurt others, not harboring deceit in our hearts, is enough to help us find peace. Every small choice during the day determines the quality of sleep that night. When the mind is light, the breath is calm. When the breath is calm, the eyes easily close. When the eyes close, sleep comes naturally, like a gift. living kindly, is the simplest yet most effective key to peaceful sleep. So, how can we apply this to life? First, practice living truthfully with yourself. If something is wrong, correct it immediately during the day. If something makes you uneasy, find a way to resolve it. If you accidentally make someone sad, you should apologize before night falls. If you accidentally take something that does not belong to you, return it as soon as possible. If in your heart you still feel angry at someone, breathe deeply and let go a little. Anger only burdens your heart and does not make the other person suffer more. Goodness is not just a way of living with outsiders, but a way of living with your own mind. Second, cultivate the habit of doing good deeds every day, even very small ones, such as helping an elderly person carry groceries, picking up trash on the street, or speaking kind words. Goodness is like small lamps in the heart. Lighting one lamp illuminates one corner. Lighting many lamps illuminates the entire mind. When there is enough light in the heart, darkness has no place to reside, and the darkness of unease, anxiety, and sleeplessness will gradually dissipate. Finally, remember that no one in life is perfect, but everyone can choose to live kindly. Goodness does not require wealth to be practiced. Goodness does not require a high education to be understood. Goodness only requires a heart that can distinguish between what should and should not be. When we live kindly, we are returning peace to ourselves. When the mind owes nothing, sleep will come like water gently flowing through rock crevices. Without force, without craving, just quietly and deeply. May you from today sleep more easily, sleep deeper, by knowing how to gently lay your heart down each night and let goodness guide your mind to peace. There are stories that seem very ordinary, but contain immense healing power. The story of coffee and cups. The story of a man who changed just for pride. All these show us where the essence of suffering and the essence of peace lie. When we look closely, we will see that most of the suffering in life does not come from circumstances, but from how we hold the cup in our hand. One day, a group of former students of a university professor returned to visit him. They had all grown up. Some were business owners, some held high positions, and some were facing problems at work and in their families. As they sat down with their teacher, they began to talk about their current pressures, worries, and exhaustion. After listening, the professor just smiled and went into the kitchen to brew a large pot of coffee. Then he brought out a tray full of various cups. Some were very beautiful and luxurious. Some were plain and simple. Some had slightly cracked edges. Some were made of shiny glass. He told them to choose a cup for themselves and pour the coffee. When everyone had settled down, the professor looked at each person and said, "Do you notice this? All of you chose the most beautiful, shiny, and luxurious cups. The simpler cups were all left behind. No one said it, but everyone wanted to take the best for themselves. Everyone wanted to express something when choosing a cup. But do you realize that what you actually need to drink is coffee, not the cup? The cup is just a container, a secondary thing. Yet everyone pays more attention to it than to the true essence." Then he continued, "Your lives are exactly the same. Your work, fame, status, appearance, money are like the cups, while happiness, stability, and inner peace are like the coffee. Yet most people only keep choosing the cup and forget the most important thing, which is the flavor of the coffee inside. They change jobs, change houses, change cars, change spouses, change everything just to find a more beautiful cup. But in the end, they lose their inner peace. I want you to understand that if you choose the wrong focus, life will always be restless. That story is like a mirror for us to reflect on ourselves. We often chase after external glamour and think that is what makes us happy. We fear others will see us as inferior. We fear being judged, feared to be looked down upon, feared that we are not as good as others. And because of fear, we cling tightly to beautiful cups, even though sometimes they are what make us tired. It is similar to the man in the story that the Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma channel is about to tell you below. There was a man living in a big city with his wife and 2 children. He worked as a factory worker in a manufacturing plant. His job wasn't lucrative, but enough to support his family. His life would have been peaceful if one day he hadn't heard his friend say that a man who works as a factory worker, his whole life has no future, is a failure, just living day by day. That remark was like a needle pricking his self-esteem. From that day on, he became restless and ashamed of his job. Then he decided to quit to find a more prestigious job, a more beautiful cup, an environment where he could hold his head high among everyone. He applied to a company to work as a sales representative. He had never done this job before, so he had to learn from scratch, get used to monthly sales targets, face customer rejections, and force himself to appear professional. Every day, he came home utterly exhausted. His salary was less than before. Time spent with his family decreased. He became stressed and easily irritable. Sometimes, his wife would ask if he was okay. He would just snap that he had to endure a little hardship for a brighter future. But the more he tried, the more pressured he felt, the more he felt lost. One day, he sat alone on the porch, thinking about his old job. He remembered the early evening shifts, the laughter of his colleagues, the feeling of not being overly burdened by work. At that time, though not wealthy, he felt lighter. But he still didn't dare to go back because of pride, because he feared others would say he failed, that he wasn't capable enough for a higher position. One day, his daughter asked, "Dad, why don't you smile anymore lately?" That question was like a bell ringing in his consciousness, and he fell silent. For the first time, he clearly saw how much he had sacrificed. He realized that he was trying to cling to a beautiful cup just to prove to others that he was not inferior to anyone. But while that cup was too luxurious, too heavy, too demanding, the coffee inside was getting colder and colder. He no longer felt happy, no longer felt light, no longer felt the taste of life. The next day, he decided to resign and return to his old factory, asking for his previous job back. At first, he felt a little embarrassed, but his old colleagues welcomed him with sincere smiles. No one mocked him, no one judged him. He understood that the things he had feared all this time were actually just illusions created by his own mind. His wife cried tears of joy when she saw him return to normal, cheerful, less stressed, and spending time for his family. He started smiling again, started sleeping well again, and began to experience life more fully. It was then that he realized that a job does not determine a person's worth, but a peaceful mind determines the worth of a life. When we look deep into that story, we will see the reflection of many people in this life. We change jobs not because we need to, but because of pride. We force ourselves to pursue standards that are not our own, but those imposed by others. We try to show off, try to prove ourselves, try to adorn ourselves with beautiful clothes, but inside, we are full of unhealed wounds. We forget that happiness does not lie in what others see, but in what only we can feel. The Buddha taught that we suffer because we cling. Cling to the self, cling to appearances, cling to fame and gain, cling to the need to be better than others. The more we cling, the more restless our minds become. When the mind is restless, even living in a beautiful house, driving a beautiful car, or doing a prestigious job, we still feel tired. Conversely, when the mind is light, even just sitting in a small room, drinking a simple cup of coffee, we still feel life's warmth. In Buddhist teachings, there is a saying, "Let go of what does not belong to you." A beautiful cup that is too heavy is not for us. A luxurious cup that makes our hands tremble is not for us. We don't need to force ourselves to become someone that society expects. We just need to return to our true selves. Life is not inherently complex. It is only complex because we want it to be. Someone asked how to keep the mind at peace amidst changes. The Buddha taught that the mind is only at peace when we see everything for its true nature. When we know that external things are just containers, and what is important is inner peace, we will no longer be drawn into the whirlpool of competition and comparison. When we know that we were not born to chase after others' expectations, we will begin to live our own lives. When we know that we don't need a beautiful cup to enjoy the flavor of coffee, we will begin to taste the simple sweetness of life. The miracle is that once the mind is at peace, we will have the wisdom to clearly see the path we need to take. When we are no longer held back by the voice of pride, we will know what suits us and what only causes us suffering. When we can let go of the ego, we will become lighter in our own lives. And as we become lighter, everything around us also becomes lighter. Our family becomes more peaceful, our work flows more smoothly, our soul becomes clearer. One who knows how to live is one who chooses the coffee, not the cup. One who knows how to practice is one who knows how to return inward instead of rushing outward to search. One who knows peace is one who knows that peace lies not in a beautiful cup, but in every sip of coffee taken with a full heart. Therefore, if you are feeling tired right now, ask yourself if you are drinking coffee or just focusing on the cup. If you find yourself trying to prove something to others, stop for a moment and ask yourself if that is truly necessary. If you find yourself losing your smile every day, see if you are clinging too tightly to a cup that isn't meant for you. And if the answer is yes, be brave and put that cup down. Choosing a cup that suits you does not make you small. Knowing what you need does not make you inferior. Living true to your inner nature is a kind of wisdom that not everyone possesses. When you learn to appreciate the flavor of life more than its outward appearance, you will find the peace that you once thought required so much effort to obtain. The flavor of life is inherently very gentle. It's just that we have forgotten how to taste it. slow down a little, pour yourself a cup of coffee, sit quietly in a tranquil space, and let your mind return to your breath. You will see that life has never abandoned you. It's just that you have been running too fast to see the things that are truly important. Peace is not far away. It lies right beside you in how you choose to drink the coffee of your life. There's a truth in life that the older we get, the more we understand. People often seek outwardly more than they turn inwardly. We ask others for comfort, ask others to understand us, ask others to lend a helping hand, ask gods and Buddhas to grant us what we lack, ask life to be less harsh. We ask for so much, but amidst all those pleas, there's one thing we rarely see. We are neglecting our ability to save ourselves. Some say that if a person stands in the rain and just begs others to bring an umbrella to shelter them, that person will always be wet and cold. Because that responsibility belongs to no one else. We ourselves are our own umbrella. This philosophy sounds very simple, but when applied to life, it penetrates deeply, layer by layer. Once, someone asked, "Why is it that whenever I suffer, I pray to Avalokiteshvara, but I don't see them come to help me immediately?" And the wise one simply smiled and said, "Avalokiteshvara doesn't bring an umbrella to shelter you. They teach you to find your own umbrella. Because if they keep sheltering you, you will always be weak, always dependent, always needing to rely on others. But if you learn to shield your own mind, to stand up from the storm of emotions, then you will truly mature and find peace." That statement carries a profound meaning. Relying on others is not as good as relying on oneself. The philosophy of impermanence in Buddhism also reminds us that everything changes. No one can accompany us throughout the entire journey. Too much reliance on someone will cause us to lose our ability to stand firm on our own. Life is also like sudden rain showers at night. Sometimes they fall gently. Sometimes they pour down heavily. If we just wait for someone to come and save us, that rain will soak us. But if we know how to open our own umbrella, to shelter ourselves, then we will pass through the storm with tranquility and proactiveness. Similarly, there are nights when you toss and turn, unable to sleep. You try every method, listen to every piece of advice, hoping someone will say something to make you feel better. But in the end, only one thing is truly effective: you yourself adjusting your own mind, soothing the anxieties swirling within. In the middle of the night, only you can rescue yourself from the restlessness that keeps you awake. This is the spirit of self-reliance in Buddhism. It is the awakening that gradually makes people realize that peace does not lie in anyone else's comfort, but in the tranquility of one's own mind. When a person cannot sleep, it is often not because they are tired, but because their mind is full of chaotic thoughts, fears, and sorrows. Worry about the future or unfinished tasks keeps swirling like a whirlpool, dragging them into unease. They hope someone understands them, hope someone listens to them, hope someone comes to comfort them, and say everything will be okay. But there's a very big question that few dare to answer. What if tonight no one listens to you? No one replies. No one comes to help you. What will you do with that mental suffering? That is when you must find your own umbrella. In Buddhism, It is taught that when the mind is chaotic, the body is tired. When the body is tired, it is prone to illness. When illness arises, it drags the mind even deeper into suffering, a vicious cycle with no escape. But if we know how to return to our breath, know how to stop the thoughts that run wild like a flock of birds in a storm, we will rediscover our inherent peace. Humans often suffer because they don't know how to stop, don't know how to embrace themselves when storms come. They are accustomed to running to someone, to beg for comfort, but that is only temporary comfort. What truly helps them escape suffering is the strength that comes from within. The story of the awakened girl is a clear illustration of this. She loved deeply, placing all her trust and heart in one person. One day, that love shattered, and she plunged into pain and despair. Every day, she would say, "Someone, please save me from this pain." She hoped friends would cheer her up. She hoped her ex-lover would return with an apology. She hoped some unexpected event would occur to alleviate her pain. But none of it came. Sadness clung to her like darkness on rainy days. The girl didn't understand that waiting for someone to rescue her was like standing in the open, waiting for someone to bring an umbrella, when just a few steps could lead her to a dry place. There were times when friends invited her out to play, invited her to clear her mind, but she always felt that nothing was enough to fill the emptiness in her heart. One night, she sat alone in her room, the yellow light illuminating her tired face. She suddenly realized that for many days she had lived in anticipation. She anticipated others bringing her joy, anticipated someone saying something that would make her feel better. And the more she anticipated, the more disappointed she became. The moment she realized this dependence, she burst into tears. But this time, not for her ex-lover, but for herself. Because she saw that she had neglected her inner strength for too long. After many days of living in despair, a gentle thought appeared in her mind. If no one comes to save me, then I must stand up myself. She turned off her phone, sat up, and made herself a hot cup of tea. The warmth spread through her fingers, soothing her body. She opened the window, letting the night breeze flow in, carrying the scent of leaves. For the first time in many nights, she didn't cry anymore. She just sat still, letting her mind settle like a lake in the evening. From that day on, she started each day by taking care of herself. She walked in the morning, read books, meditated for a few minutes before sleeping, and learned to accept the truth that some people only accompany us for a part of the journey. A breakup is not the end. It is only a signal that it is time to love ourselves more. Then one day, she realized that sadness no longer clung to her as before. It lightened and gradually dissipated, like mist before the sun. And she understood that this recovery was created by herself, not by anyone else. She had found her own umbrella in life. This story reminds us that no one can live for us. No one can overcome emotional storms for us. Friends can be by our side. Loved ones can share. But the person who truly walks through that pain must still be ourselves. The Buddha taught that everyone must take responsibility for their own karma. No one can bear karma for another. Pain is the same. No one can truly feel the pain we are enduring. Only we can open the door to our own liberation. In the Dhammapada, there is a saying, "By oneself is evil done. By oneself is one defiled. By oneself is evil left undone. By oneself is one purified. Purity and impurity depend on oneself. No one can purify another. This means that a peaceful mind or a chaotic mind both arise from within us. Sadness is the same, and liberation is the same. They do not come from anyone else. When we understand this, we will be less expectant, less dependent, and less longing for things that do not belong to us. Sometimes we are like a lamp in the wind. Just a little stronger gust will make us sway. But if we know how to shield that lamp, it will not go out in the storm. That shielding does not come from others, but from inner stability. Just like flowing water, whether it encounters rocks or tree roots, it still finds a way to continue. When our mind is as firm as water, we can also overcome everything with gentleness and perseverance. The biggest lesson from the story of Avalokiteshvara and the umbrella is self-reliance. Buddhism teaches us that the path to liberation is a path that each person must walk with their own feet. The Buddha is only a guide. Avalokiteshvara is only a spiritual refuge. But if we do not walk, the Buddha cannot help us go. If we do not open our own umbrella, Avalokiteshvara cannot keep the rain off us forever. Awakening only comes when we dare to look within ourselves and realize that we are the only ones responsible for our lives. And, after all, the most important thing is peace. Peace is not the absence of storms, but knowing how to shield oneself to walk through storms. It is not the absence of sadness, but knowing how to embrace that sadness so that it naturally lightens. It is not the absence of sleepless nights, but knowing how to lull one's mind into stillness so that sleep comes naturally. When we know how to be our own support, we will no longer fear long nights. When we know how to comfort ourselves, we will no longer fear stormy days. So if you are listening to this lecture on a sleepless night, let the Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma channel tell you something gentle. You are not alone. But more importantly, you are not as weak as you think. You have immense strength within. You just haven't seen it, like the umbrella still in your hand that you mistakenly think is somewhere far away. Take a deep breath and feel that within your mind there is a tranquil sky. That is where you can find refuge when everything around becomes too noisy. When we understand that no one can save us but ourselves, we will begin the healing journey. This is not a journey measured by days and months, but a journey of awareness. Once awareness changes, everything else changes accordingly, and then sleep will return to you like an old friend coming home. Without hurry, without force, just gently and naturally. May you find your own umbrella and walk steadily through this ever-changing life. There are things in this life that seem small at first glance, but once understood, we realize they are the very doors to peace. Contentment, or knowing enough, trituk, is one such thing. Everyone desires happiness, health, and peaceful sleep, yet they often forget that the more the mind chases after things, the harder it is to find rest. We live amidst a turbulent life, with busy work, and the heavy burden of daily sustenance weighing on our shoulders. Silent worries flow through each day, so that when night falls, our hearts are still not at peace. Amidst sighs, amidst nights spent staring wide-eyed at the ceiling, we don't know that the secret to good sleep sometimes lies not in expensive remedies, but in the ability to appreciate what is present. When the mind knows contentment, the body is at peace. When the body is at peace, sleep naturally comes like a gentle breeze. Someone asked why it becomes harder to sleep as we get older. Sometimes it's not because the body is tired, but because we don't know how to stop the cravings in our minds. People say impermanence is the natural law of life. The things we think belong to us may one day depart. The things we try to hold tightly cannot be held forever. If we already know that this life is impermanent, why do we let our hearts be weighed down by things we can't truly grasp? Are we suffering because we desire too much and are disappointed because we desire too much fullness? Meanwhile, those who know contentment live freely like flowing water, gently blending into each moment. They are less angry because they don't demand too much. They worry less because they believe in karma. And they sleep better because their minds are not entangled, not circling around gains and losses. In the Buddha's teachings, there is a saying that one who knows enough is the richest person, because the more one craves, the more restless their heart becomes. Some people live in spacious houses, eat well, and have abundant material possessions. Yet at night, they toss and turn, fearing they will lose what they have tomorrow. Others live simply, eat plain meals, wear simple clothes. Yet at night, they lie down and sleep soundly until morning. Why is it so different? Not because of circumstances, but because each person's mind is focused on different things. One counts what they lack, while the other cherishes what they have. In everyday stories, we encounter many such images. Some people worry all day about work, fear others' judgment, fear not having enough money, not being good enough, not being beautiful enough, not being successful enough. These thoughts are like a twisted rope, making the mind always taut like a guitar string. Once it's too taut, even a small impact can cause everything to break. Insomnia is the first sign that the mind is deviating from peace. The more we chase after ambition and cling to fear, the further away peaceful sleep becomes. Meanwhile, contentment teaches us to look at the present with grateful eyes, grateful for health, grateful for loved ones, grateful for food to eat, for a home to return to, for hands to work. When we realize that these simple things are already happiness, all worries naturally recede. Just 1 minute of contentment can lighten the mind greatly. And when the mind is light, sleep also follows gently. Many years ago, there was a folk story about a poor old man living on a mountainside. His house was small, just enough to shelter him from the sun and rain. Every day, he ate a simple bowl of white rice, sometimes with a few vegetables picked from the garden. People passing by saw him smiling every day, carefree and peaceful, as if he had nothing to worry about. One day, someone asked why he was so happy when life wasn't very full. He just smiled gently and said he was happy because he still had food to eat, strength to chew, eyes to see the sky and earth, and a heart to feel life smiling at him. That was enough happiness. The listener fell silent, realizing they were living the opposite way. Some people had 1,000 times more than him, but always felt a lack of money, a lack of material possessions, a lack of love a lack of distant things that they attached to their lives. They hoped for more and forgot that true happiness begins with contentment. No matter how delicious the food, if the mind is not at peace, it tastes bland. No matter how beautiful the house, if the heart is uneasy, it brings no joy. No matter how soft the bed, if the mind is chaotic, one cannot sleep. That old man did not live a rich life, but lived with a rich mind. Every time he chewed his rice, he knew he was blessed. Every time he breathed, he felt grateful for life. His mind was as pure as the moonlight on a full moon night, illuminating wherever it shone. On the other hand, people who are materially rich but poor in contentment are like those standing in the middle of the sea, yet crying out for thirst because they don't know how to open their hearts to receive what is readily available around them. The Buddha once taught that a greedy mind is like a bottomless bucket. If you keep trying to fill it with cravings, the more you pour, the emptier it becomes. Only when you rein in your desires can that bucket hold peace. A person who cannot sleep peacefully at night is mostly because their mind still demands too much. Some people suffer from insomnia because they think about money. Some because they think about fame. Some because they fear comparison. Some because they regret past events. All share a common root. The mind has not learned contentment. As long as the mind craves, there will be instability. As long as the mind turns toward external things, it will be harder to settle. Contentment does not mean stopping or not trying. Contentment is understanding that all effort needs to be based on a foundation of peace. We strive, but do not sacrifice sleep. We work, but do not compromise health. We desire, but do not let desire become a burden. Contentment is knowing that in this life, there are things we cannot fully grasp, and the only thing we can control is our mind. When we know what to keep and what to let go of, we will no longer toss and turn every night. In a lecture, a monk said that people who sleep easily are those who do not let their minds linger for too long. They breathe out sadness, keep joy in their hearts. They let resentment be carried away by the wind, and let tomorrow handle worries. When they lie down at night, they consider everything temporarily set aside, because human life is limited, because breath is impermanent, because waking up tomorrow to see the sun is already a great blessing. How can such a mind not sleep well? Some people burst into tears after hearing this because they had never stopped to think this way. They always tried to solve all problems before going to bed, stubbornly embracing all worries, trying to control life according to their will. And that very thing made them more tired, more sleepless, and more prone to collapsing when storms hit. In reality, what exhausts us most is not life itself, but how we face life. If we know contentment, know how to be satisfied with what we have, life will become much lighter. Contentment is also a form of letting go of the thought that we must be better than others. Letting go of the fear of losing out, letting go of unnecessary expectations. When we can let go of these things, the mind naturally becomes as vast as the sky. A vast mind sleeps deeply. A small mind sleeps shallowly. A mind full of worries gets more tired the longer it stays up. But a mind full of contentment, simply by lying down, sinks into peace. In the Dhammapada, there is a saying that if one knows enough, one is always joyful. That is not just a philosophical statement, but a truth that can be applied immediately in every breath of life. People who know enough always sleep easily because they do not let their minds wander. They love what they have and do not chase after illusory things. They understand that life is like a stream. The more you try to hold it, the more it slips from your hands. But when you let the water flow naturally, you find it clear and gentle. From the story of the old man and the white rice, we learn a simple but profound lesson. Happiness does not lie in grand things, but in the ability to appreciate the ordinary. White rice every day can also become a source of joy if we are grateful. An old bed can also bring good sleep if our mind is calm. A busy day can also become a gift if we see it as an opportunity to live fully in every moment. When we know contentment, we are light. Like someone putting down a heavy burden by the roadside so that their shoulders can relax. Some people say they want to sleep well, but cannot because their minds are always spinning like a pinwheel in the wind. The Zen Buddhist Dharma channel asked them what they think about every night before bed. They said they think about things they haven't achieved, people who upset them, vague fears, and unfulfilled dreams. The Zen Buddhist Dharma channel replied, "No mind can sleep soundly when it holds so much. The mind is like a room. If it's full of clutter, there's no space for peace. If too many things are messy, the breath also cannot flow smoothly. We need to clear things out, reorganize. We need to discard old things so the mind can be spacious. Contentment is how you clean your mind's room. If tonight you find yourself having difficulty sleeping, try sitting still for a moment and asking yourself if you have known enough. See if your body is still healthy. See if your family is still at peace. See if you still have a roof over your head to shield you from rain and sun. If you still have these things, you are much luckier than many people. Take a deep breath in and gently breathe out to realize that even if the world is noisy, within you, there is still a small corner of peace to return to. And when you look at life with a heart of contentment, you will realize that sleep is inherently very close to you. Contentment doesn't turn life into heaven, but it turns the mind into a peaceful dwelling place. A person who knows enough is not lazy, but is someone whom nothing can make suffer. At night, they lie down, not dwelling on yesterday's matters, not rushing for tomorrow's affairs. They let their minds rest like a leaf, gently falling onto the water's surface, then sinking into sleep with lightness. And that is the sleep of a free person. The one who knows enough is the richest. The one who sleeps well is the happiest. And when contentment blends into the breath each night, you will find this life much gentler, warmer, and lighter. In everyone's life, there are moments when we feel the world is against us. A small thing is enough to unsettle the mind. A glance is enough to make the heart sink. An unintentional word is enough to disturb the mind. But if we look closely, what makes us suffer is not the event itself, but how we perceive it. Impermanence always reminds us that everything can change in an instant. Just as a clear afternoon sky suddenly turns to rain, life can change its colors very quickly. We cannot choose the weather, but we can choose our attitude. We cannot control others, but we can adjust how we see them. And we cannot prevent the day's events from happening. But we can absolutely decide whether we sleep tonight with a peaceful mind or a troubled one. Some people live in difficult circumstances, yet sleep peacefully. Some have everything yet toss and turn sleeplessly at night, unable to close their eyes. The difference lies in perspective. Perspective is like the glasses we wear. If the glasses are dusty, the world before our eyes is dim. If the glasses are clean, everything becomes clear. Our mind is the same. When the mind is clear, everything is light. When the mind is dark, even small matters become heavy. The Buddha once taught that the mind is the root of all suffering. If the mind is dominated by anger, worry, or sadness, sleep will not be peaceful. Conversely, if the mind finds peace, knows understanding, and is open, then the breath will be lighter, and sleep will be deeper. This life and sleep have one thing in common. Both depend on how we perceive things. Perhaps you have experienced that feeling. Lying down at night, instead of letting the body rest, we start replaying an old event in our heads. A word someone said that hurt us, a misunderstanding that hasn't been explained, a mistake that we regret. The more we think, the sadder we become. The more we remember, the more it hurts. The more we are irritated, the harder it is to sleep. The mind is like a person standing in a dark room with only a little light. And instead of opening the door to let the light in, we choose to remain in that darkness. Changing perspective is opening a door. As soon as that door is opened, we will see that no darkness disappears by itself. Rather, we are no longer looking at it. In Buddhism, this is called transforming perception. When perception changes, the mind changes accordingly. When the mind changes, life also changes. That is why a person who can change their perspective immediately finds sleep becoming lighter. Because when the mind is not held by negative thoughts, the body automatically relaxes. When the mind is no longer suppressed, the breath becomes deep and regular. When the mind no longer dwells on right or wrong, gain or loss, victory or defeat, sleep also becomes gentler. The truth is that most of the day's troubles come more from our reactions than from the events themselves. A word, if viewed with empathy, is light like a breeze, but if viewed with anger, it becomes a storm in the heart. A mistake, if viewed with compassion, turns into a lesson. But if viewed with blame, it becomes a wound that is hard to heal. A loss, if viewed with acceptance, becomes peaceful. But if viewed with resistance, it turns into prolonged pain. Every day that passes, we don't know how much suffering we have created, simply because we refuse to change our perspective. The human psyche tends to react strongly to what is not to its liking. If someone does something against our will, we easily get annoyed. If something doesn't go according to plan, we feel dissatisfied. But the more we react this way, the more tired we become. It's like a person holding a hot stone in their hand. The tighter we squeeze, the more it hurts. Putting it down is liberation. The fastest way to put it down is to try to view everything a little more lightly. When we view lightly, the mind becomes light. When the mind is light, sleep is peaceful. Changing perspective is not just changing how we think, but also how we heal ourselves. There is a simple but profound story about a boy who accidentally broke a bowl in his house. That day, when she heard the sound of the bowl falling, his mother ran out from the kitchen. The boy stood trembling, his eyes wide with fear that his mother would be angry. Before, every time he broke something, he was always scolded. So this time, before his mother could say anything, he burst into tears. The mother saw those tears, and she saw her son's fear. In that moment, she suddenly realized something she hadn't noticed for a long time. She wasn't angry because the bowl was broken, but because in her heart, she always carried the worry that everything had to be perfect. And the boy was afraid, not because he broke something, but because he feared losing his mother's love. The mother stood silently for a moment, then gently said, "The bowl is just a bowl. If it's broken, we can buy another. You're crying because you're afraid of me is what hurts me most." So they hugged each other. That night, the mother placed her hand on her son's forehead and felt his breathing was more regular than usual. The boy fell asleep very quickly, and she also slept unusually well. There were no shouts, no silent regrets gnawing at her mind. Only one very new thing. Her perspective had changed. She realized that some things are truly very small, but if we don't change our perspective, they will become unnecessary sorrows. The story sounds very ordinary, but is like a light shining into the deepest corner of the mind. How many times have we been angry about things not worth being angry about? How many times have we hurt loved ones over a small mistake? How many times have we burdened our own hearts because we refuse to look at things in a lighter way? And how many times have we suffered from insomnia simply by clinging to things that, if we calmed down, we would see are as small as dust in life? The Buddha once taught that afflictions do not lie in the events themselves, but in our mind's attitude towards the events. Whether a matter is small or large depends on our perspective. The same thing happens. A wise person sees it as wind brushing over water. An ignorant person sees it as a stone falling into a river, making the water murky. If we change our perspective, worries naturally dissipate. When the mind is clear, life is clear. And when life is clear, sleep is also clear. Conversely, if we stubbornly cling to a negative perspective, the mind will be dark, like land lacking sunlight. What tree can live in that darkness? What sleep can come to a person who forever clings to worries? The scriptures record that practitioners must learn the art of transforming the mind. Not transforming the mind in the sense of changing opinions every day, but transforming from a dark mind to a bright mind. Transforming from anger to peace. Transforming from blame to love. Transforming from suffering to understanding. Each such transformation is like taking another step out of the inner darkness. When we step far from darkness, sleep will flow in gently like a breath. If we look deep within ourselves, we will see that many sufferings in life begin with untransformed thoughts. A person on the road accidentally bumps into us. If we view it negatively, we assume they did it on purpose. If we shift to a positive perspective, we understand they were just careless. Someone doesn't reply to a message. If we view it negatively, we think they look down on us. If we view it positively, we understand they are busy. Someone says harsh words. If we view it negatively, we assume they are insulting us. If we view it positively, we know they might be going through something sad. When we change our perspective, we are truly giving ourselves an opportunity for peace. Because peace does not come from outside, but from how we face everything. Someone asked why the more they think, the more tired they get. Because our thoughts are like water flowing down a slope. If we let it rush in a negative direction, that stream will become a flood. But if we guide it in a positive direction, that stream will become gentle. The mind is the same. When led in a negative direction, the mind becomes confused. A confused mind makes sleep difficult. When led in a positive direction, the mind becomes clear. A clear mind sleeps peacefully. The most important thing is not having much or little knowledge, being rich or poor, having status or not, but whether we can keep our minds clear. In life, everyone has moments when they just want to leave everything behind and escape for a few days. But the Buddha taught that escaping is not the solution. Only changing the mind is the solution. We cannot change life, but we can change how we see life. When we can change how we see things that once caused us suffering, they will become as light as smoke. When we can change the mind, those fitful sleeps will become deeper, longer, and warmer. Once we know how to view everything with an open mind, we will see that not everything in this world is worth being sad about. Not everyone wants to hurt us. Not every situation requires a strong reaction. Not every task is so important that we must let it intrude on our sleep. Small matters can be let go. Big matters will eventually become small. The law of the mind is like that. When we view something lightly, it naturally shrinks. When we view something as too important, it immediately swells. Tonight, as you prepare to sleep, try to pause for a moment to ask yourself a question. Today, did I view everything with a bright or dark perspective? Did I react too strongly to anything? Was there anything I could have viewed more lightly? Did I mistakenly blame someone? Did I hold on to some sadness for too long? And most importantly, am I letting an old perspective rob my sleep of its peace? If you start practicing viewing life with a bright mind, you will find that no day is too heavy. No sadness is truly insurmountable, because everything is just clouds floating in the sky, and your mind is the true sky. Clouds can be dark or white, thick or thin, but the sky remains vast and bright. Your mind is the same. No matter how many things happen, you still have the right to choose a perspective that brings you the most peace. Once you have that perspective, sleep will become a gentle gift. You will find yourself closing your eyes faster, breathing more calmly, and waking up lighter tomorrow. Because you are no longer someone running in the darkness of worries, but someone who has learned to step toward